Welcome back to the kickoff. Today I am joined by Joey, Jacob, Craig and Josh. How's it going, lads? You all right?
Very good.
All
Very
good, man. Probably better than me. It's been a tough 24 hours. Another last minute loss. Do you know how many last minute goals Newcastle? I've been feeling this for the last 24 hours. How many last minute goals we've conceded this season is like a record or something.
Really?
Like, yeah. But like, it kind of stands to reason. Like, all these injuries, legs are dying, final minutes, all the pressure.
From the Newcastle perspective, what happened?
We didn't track Kevin De Bruyne for a start. We had two academy lads in centre midfield. One of them is 17 years old. One of them is Sean Longstaff. And I'll be honest, Sean Longstaff is an absolute fucking passenger in this side. And not just against Man City, though. People are like, oh, it's Man City. No, against Sunderland. We played at Sunderland a week before, and I'm watching him. And I'm thinking, you're fucking shying away here. Do you know when the defence get the ball and they're looking and they're going like that? And you see one of the midfielders and he just shrinks.
That's quite damning on Sean Longstaff's behalf that you say that, isn't it?
Think about
that
it.
game,
Yeah.
Sunderland, you're
And
the
he's a
academy
Geordie.
graduate. You're a Geordie. You've come through the academy sort of thing. So
And think about me. No one wants to support Geordies more than me. Now, when I'm watching you shrink at the Stadium of Light, and not for the first time, you know, he has this thing. It reminds me when I was 11 years old and I was trying to get in the school football team, and I'd be all finger pointing and shouting, but you know, really achieving fuck all. Do you know what I mean? And he's got this very clever ability to jog as if he's really, but he's never close enough to impact anyone. He's never close enough to make the tackle, and then when he does get on the end of crosses coming in, they're always shit shots. And there's been a few months where I've kept my eye on this guy and I thought, I don't want to say it, but now it's happening. Like, I'm calling him out now. He's an absolute fraud, and he's the first one who should be out the door as far as I'm concerned, because to do it against Sunderland like that, and you see a lot of the fans have seen this. I've seen it all over Twitter. Like, he's a passenger. He's a waste of a shirt. And in that game, I knew, as much as the brilliance of Kevin De Bruyne was absolutely there on show, the positional sense of Newcastle's midfield was pathetic. Now, I can excuse a 17-year-old lad for it, especially when he's 10 times as good with the ball as Sean Longstaff is. But what I can't do is excuse Sean Longstaff, who should be by now a Premier League guy. And even Bruno Guimaraes, who, despite having Hollywood moments, his positional sense, and this is partly a Newcastle problem, is when we've got so many players out. But, you know, even if we had a lot of these midfielders back, we haven't got a holding midfielder in the whole fucking squad.
But that's the problem with Guimaraes, though, isn't it? He's not a 6.
No, and
he's been there for...
he's been forced into it because of the lack of like good backup.
But this is the thing, and we're going to talk about FFP later, but like, as much as you might look at Newcastle and go, oh, injuries, blah, 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 it's like, in the summer, there was no FFP restrictions on Newcastle.
But there was.
There was, but you still spent 80 million quid on Tonali, who gambling addiction aside.
I think it was about 50, but yeah.
But was it 50? Okay, well, it's a lot of money. That could have been a 6.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He's very similar positionally to Guimaraes, Tonali, for me. He's up and down. He's an 8, really.
I think Tonali has better positional sense. And look, if he was in that game, he would have without doubt been better than Sean Longstaff. But regardless, like, I think we would, like, there's no argument for us saying we should have won that game. Like, City were all over us. But small things make huge differences. We found that out against Liverpool. Little things like the Anthony Gordon foul where he was clipped in the leg and then that led to their equaliser. Like, with Newcastle, when we play the big teams, we're an easy team for referees to go, nah, it's just Newcastle, though, innit? And we a lot of those small decisions and big decisions go against us. And I know a lot of fans like to say that, but I'm just saying it all the time, and there's too much evidence of it.
Do you know, as someone that can, you know, I've not got a horse in a race, I'm able to detach emotion from this. I'm not too worried about Newcastle because we all know the crisis they're going through with the injuries and obviously with the FFP restraints and whatnot. I sort of look at it and I think, okay, if you're, let's use the boxing analogy, if you're a boxer with no chin, it doesn't matter what happens, how well you do, because you've got no chin. I'd rather be a boxer with no fitness, because you can get fit. So when I look at Newcastle in these bigger games, like against Liverpool, you know, against City yesterday, I look at them and I'm like, do you know what? The moments that you're putting on show that you can hang it, you can compete, you definitely can, but you're just down to the bare bones with obviously the FFP restraints and with the injury crisis you've got. So when things level out, I wouldn't be concerned. There's not a part of me without the emotion invested in it that goes, oh, is that Eddie Howe's fault? Is that tactical? I get that there's always things that you can do tactically better, but I'm not massively concerned when I look at Newcastle. I just think you're having really, really bad luck with everything that's not going your way. But you're showing me enough in these moments to go, no, once you lot are, even close to fully fit, you're going to compete. You're going to be up there with them top 4 teams.
This is the most frustrating season I've ever watched as a Newcastle fan because for
worse than a relegation.
Yeah, because acceptance helps you not get there's a reason I want to punch Jurgen Klopp's face in, right? Aside from not taking my meds that day, it's like it's a hard thing to go to when you're an early team, and I'm now understanding why, no disrespect, Arsenal and Liverpool fans are the most emotional fan bases because they're always the bridesmaid, never the bride, a lot of the time, and it's hard being that. It's not a nice feeling because for Newcastle for 20 years I just had to accept we're shit, and I was frustrated, but I knew what we were.
You weren't even the bridesmaid. You'd be lucky to be holding the door open.
Tell me about it, bro. We're not even throwing the petals on these fuckers. Now, this season we've had so many performances like the PSG one, away from home, denied in the last minute from bullshit referees again. Good fucking performances where we made a fight against Liverpool, against Arsenal, we beat Man United, Chelsea. We've had some good performances, but with Champions League and the fitness and then the Tonali situation, so many things just fall into bits. And people might sit there and go, Newcastle have no worse injury crisis than this team or that team. Statistically, we have missed the most days via injury this season. Number 1 injured team in the Premier League by a mile. But actually, I think it goes further than this season. It's probably a backroom staff issue. There's more to it than just this. But I have to give credit to City. They were fucking fantastic. I think that was one of the best games of the season, to be fair to them. To both sides.
That was a statement win as well. That in terms of timing, I think we're into the sort of business end of the season now, where results start to matter, right? And it's teams are playing each other for the second time, and you think from an Arsenal perspective, and looking at what Liverpool have been doing as well. City missed games in December. They went off and did the Club World Championship, and it's like they've come back now. De Bruyne's back, Haaland's back in a couple of weeks, and it's almost like they're looking around at the other teams and going, "Is this all you've done?" While we've been away.
I think that's a great point.
None of you built up a lead.
Yeah.
No, while we had De Bruyne out for half a season, none of you built up a lead.
And
none of you ran away.
Haaland
all right,
injured.
Here we come now. And for me, I think we're going to look back. I think in a couple of weeks, a couple of months' time, I think we're going to look back at that result, and especially at half time when you guys were 2-1 up, and I think we're going to look back and go, that's where they turned it.
However, I think it's easy to get carried away with that win without recognising how often Newcastle have capitulated in the dying minutes, and that this isn't just a thing that happened because City was so great. This has been happening against Liverpool again. So I think that was the perfect game and the perfect moment for them, and with a midfield that is just in no way equipped to deal with the Kevin De Bruyne. It was set up to make that look great for them. In terms of Kevin De Bruyne, you've been waiting for him to come back. You've been telling us.
I have.
And that train is right on time.
It really is. It's at the platform. It's arrived. I mean, even I couldn't see this come. I knew he would be imperative to the second half of the season. I think we all did. But for him to come back in his first, we know he played midweek, but his first proper Premier League game and have the impact he had was just incredible to see it. And the thing is, you could see he wasn't even at 100%. The way he was running, he looked a bit sluggish, but still the way he just glided through, past the ball into the bottom corner of the net, and then to set up the last one for Bobb, which, by the way, we were saying this off camera, everyone's talking about Kevin De Bruyne, and rightly so, but this Bobb kid, where has he come from? They've just produced another kid who, in the dying embers of an important game, like you said, has kept composure, controlled the ball, used great feet to just slot it away, and no one's really talking about him. And I'm like, what? I was super impressed by him. But I think the biggest telling point was Pep's reaction.
Absolutely.
The way, I mean, we've seen him have over-the-top celebrations, but the way he was celebrating at the end of that match, you could see how important that result was to Man City's season.
I literally was like, another manager just rubbing it right in. And it's partly a credit to Newcastle that managers celebrate with the ridiculous nature that they do against us, because they know we fight to the fucking bitter end. And
it's St James's Park. Yeah. It's not easy to go there and get a result.
It's the third best home ground in the league in terms of form. But Kevin De Bruyne, we were talking before the stream, where does he rank now in terms of all-time Premier League greats? Because for me, for a long time, he was probably my favourite player in the Premier League while Newcastle were doing fuck all at the bottom, if they were in there. Now I'm looking at it and thinking, who has been more influential in Premier League history in terms of getting their team Premier League titles? Because now I look at it, I really think if Kevin De Bruyne wasn't the player he is, the gap between City and Liverpool would have changed a lot more than it has. Like, he is the difference maker, and even with Haaland, you see the difference he makes to Haaland's game. Like, I think he's up there in the all-time great players, let alone midfielders. Where do you lads rank him? Just out of interest.
I'm gonna straight out the gate. This could be controversial, but I'm gonna say top 3 all time. Every player that's graced the Premier League, I'm saying top 3. I don't know quite off the top of my head who are the players I'll put above him. Maybe Henry, which pains me to say as a Spurs fan. Maybe Cristiano Ronaldo. Maybe. But De Bruyne for me, and do you know what it is about him? It's not just the trophies he's won, the influence he's had on Man City. It's the rarefied air he's in today when he comes back, which we see. Like, the way everyone's speaking about him. And like I said, he wasn't even...
Me of?
Go on.
When Eric Cantona came back from that big old ban and everyone was like, it's a wrap, son.
Yeah.
Like, it goes back to that level of influence where, like, the king has returned.
He's literally a living legend playing on the pitch we're seeing now.
Yeah.
Like, the way everyone talks about him, the way every fan, even the rival fans, Liverpool fans, I saw on Twitter, everyone speaking about how good he is, but everyone was excited to see his return.
Mate, he excites
everyone. Usually you're only excited about your own club's players when they return. You know what I mean? With Kevin De Bruyne, it's like, all right, maybe I don't want City to win, but I want to see De Bruyne play.
And we've seen like players like Luis Suarez have amazing seasons where, like, that season in particular stands out for me as, like, you could argue that's the greatest single season I've ever seen in the Premier League, but it's the consistency, and it isn't. And De Bruyne doesn't rely on athleticism the way a lot of these lads did. Like, you see when certain players' legs go a bit, the game is completely fucked. Like, this guy's had a major injury, and I was genuinely thinking, I'm going to back, maybe Arsenal or Liverpool to try and pick them this season, because how can we expect? It's not unfair on De Bruyne to put all of this on your shoulders and be like, oh, by the way, can you just win us the fucking title? And then he turns up with, like, Batman just when you need him. But where do you rank him in all time?
Do you know what I will say there, though? It's not just the thing about not relying on the athleticism. I would say it's having the versatility to adapt when your athleticism then goes a little bit. So say, for example, like players like Alan Shearer. Alan Shearer stayed being a great goal scorer throughout his career because once his athleticism went a little bit, he then started to adapt. Now, I'm not saying De Bruyne's has, but obviously with the injury, we'll have to sort of let time tell the story. What I would say is I probably don't rate him in top 3 of all time yet. He could then get into it. Definitely in top 3 midfielders of all time. For me personally, and I'll get accused of massive bias here, I'm being deadly serious. I'd still put Lampard ahead of him for this moment in time.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I think at this moment in time, if I look at it, right, and obviously look, City, De Bruyne now has, I'm thinking, won more Premier League titles than Lampard did. Just about. But if I look at it and I say, right, would Chelsea have won any of them titles without Lampard? I think there's an argument to say we might not have won any of them without Lampard. There is an argument. I'm not saying it's definitive.
You're nodding, John.
I totally agree. I think with the Lampard debate, people don't look at the stats of it. Like 177 goals in the Premier League all time for Frank Lampard is an amazing amount of goals, and he also got over 100 assists. Like, combine his goals and assists together.
Can I add to that? However, when we're talking about this stat as well here, remember, Lampard was putting in Premier League appearances when he was at West Ham, when he was coming through in 2001-2002 season at Chelsea, when he was sometimes coming off the bench, not even a first-team starter. When De Bruyne came to the Premier League, scrapped the Chelsea thing because he had a handful of matches for Chelsea. When De Bruyne came, he came off the back of having a really good season at Wolfsburg and pretty much came in as a first-team starter. So he was more of the closer to the product that we're seeing now when he started his assault on the Premier League, whereas Lampard and even Gerrard, for that matter, were coming through young players. So obviously that will alter the stats ever so slightly as well. Ever so slightly.
How long did Lampard play at Chelsea for?
It's over 10 years.
Longer than that. Longer than that.
I'm saying it will put it in De Bruyne's favour.
How?
Percentage-wise, it will put it in De Bruyne's
In
favour
terms of less
because
games.
Lampard didn't hit the ground running. Lampard didn't hit the ground running.
But that's
Lampard
his fault,
came
no?
through, Lampard came through with a guy that as a guy in the West Ham team that fans thought Scotty Cannon was better than. So Lampard didn't hit the ground running, didn't come through as the product that we're seeing now. When Man City bought Kevin De Bruyne, he was pretty much, I'm not saying he hasn't gone to different levels, but he was a first team starter when he came in. So Lampard and Steven Gerrard were not. Steven Gerrard was being played at right back, and Lampard was a guy that the West Ham fans thought Scotty Cannon, whoever that is, was
Ironically, I remember back in the day, Kieran Dyer was rated higher than Gerrard and Lampard in the England scene when they were all coming up together, and obviously those two went on to new levels. Jacob, who do you rate higher, Lampard or Kevin De Bruyne?
I'm sorry, mate. No, it's De Bruyne for me. I think there's a conversation to be had about him being currently the best midfielder in the world. Jude Bellingham is obviously doing freaky stuff at Real Madrid. I think for the last 3 years, when De Bruyne's fit, when he's doing it, he's won everything, and I don't think we're having that conversation with Lampard.
Yeah, was Lampard ever the best midfielder in the world?
I don't think we're having that conversation.
He was nominated. He was nominated in the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah,
he won.
No, that's not what I said. I didn't say was he nominated.
2005.
I didn't say was he nominated. I said was he the best in the world?
He was in the Ballon d'Or teams of the year, like consistent.
And he was to 04-05 season, right, when Chelsea went out in the semi-finals to the ghost goal at Liverpool. Lampard was the best player in that Champions League. The best player in that Champions League. Tore it up against Barcelona. Tore it up against Bayern Munich.
We got a bit of recency bias. We got a bit of recency bias.
There was
real footballers back then.
If Lampard, who let's just have on account here, his best ever season, his numbers were better than De Bruyne's best ever season he's ever had. If that Lampard is playing in today's football era, we're like, oh my God. But at the minute, when we're talking about De Bruyne, we just said Jude Bellingham there, right? Give me the list. Give me the list of players that are actively playing right now that you're putting on a pedestal with Kevin De Bruyne. Whereas when Lampard was doing it, you did have Gerrard there, you had Scholes overseas, you had Kaka, you had Vieira, Kaka, players like that, right? Players, so I think that undermines it a little bit. Whereas when we look at Kevin De Bruyne at the moment, who is the player that you put alongside him?
What, today?
Yeah.
See, today I don't know, but over the last 5 years, what
I'm saying, the reason I think that sometimes we cannot give Lampard the respect that needs being is because there was such a pool of talent there alongside him that it took the shine off what Lampard was doing so much. I would argue if there was a player putting up Frank Lampard numbers consistently in today's era right now, we're looking at him in the same light as Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah, but numbers are numbers. Like Iniesta didn't produce a lot of numbers. Like numbers are cool, and obviously they're important. And Lampard, they were important for Chelsea, there's no denying that. But when we talk about who's a better footballer, I don't think Lampard can chat to Kevin De Bruyne as being a better footballer. Technique,
I think it's
grace. I don't think it is.
But what I will say is, in less time, obviously, I understand that they're different. Like Lampard for me was always a goal-scoring midfielder, so I am quite surprised to see how high his assists were. Lampard had 102 assists. Kevin De Bruyne has just surpassed him with 100. I think 103 is on. The all-time is 111 for Cesc Fabregas in the Premier League. So it's certain that De Bruyne will be the all-time assist leader by playing less time than the other guys, but he hasn't scored the goals.
Is it significant less time in the Premier League?
It's not massive. I mean, he joined Man City in 2015, so he has actually been there quite a while.
So coming up to 9 years.
Coming up to
and
9
that's what I'm saying. How long was Lampard in the Premier League for?
Well, his entire career,
like 20 years.
Yeah. I think it's really hard with midfielders because they do such different things. As you say, like Lampard was a finisher, and that's
he was kind of a second striker, right?
Yeah, that's how I always saw him. His third man runs into the box, finish off, and assist as well. For me, De Bruyne, and bear in mind, I've got no horse in this race. I'm a complete neutral, and I probably dislike Man City more than I do that Chelsea team. But like, I look at this Man City team, I think they're probably the best team that's played in the Premier League. Certainly in terms of Guardiola, what he's done with Man City. I think in terms of points totals, in terms of what they've done, I don't like saying that. Arsenal's Invincibles for me. They achieved something no one else has done. But you look at this Manchester City team, they're probably going to win the title again this season. So what's that, like 5 in 6 seasons they'll have won a title? And for me, it's not that De Bruyne is the goal scorer in that midfield. He is that team.
He's the talisman.
He is that team.
Head and shoulders. That's what I'm saying. In the Chelsea team, Lampard was important. We're not denying that. But there were big leaders and characters in that team around him anyway. You had the John Terrys, you had the Drogbas, you had these players that would take it on their back. Even with all the world-class talent in Man City's team right now, Kevin De Bruyne is clearly the talisman that puts it on his back when he's playing.
The only counter to that, though, is that they've been playing for half the season this season. And yeah, they're not right at the top of the league, but they're very close to the top of the league. And they've still been outperforming teams left, right, and centre. They've been right up there. And you could argue, I think you could argue now that Rodri is more important to this Man City team than De Bruyne is.
That's an argument.
Because you take Rodri out, and they've completely capitulated. Yeah, so
that's kind of what I'm saying about midfielders, though. It's why it's so hard to say, is he the best of all? Because there are holding midfielders who, like, you take them out of any of the teams we're talking about. You know, there were players in that Chelsea team. You know, John Obi Mikel for a long time was pretty important.
Let's talk about Vieira for a second, because if we're going midfielders against midfielders, people that made an impact to their club at that particular time, Vieira made a huge impact into that Arsenal team.
Oh yeah,
arguably was the talisman for that amazing season. So
the one big difference for me of all of this conversation is like the level of dominance of Manchester City versus every other team. 5 titles in 6 seasons, which is, you know, what is it going to be, 6 and 7 or what, you know, whatever the hell we're going to end up with. And it doesn't look like it's slowing down. I think that there's a way that De Bruyne plays football that looks a little bit more attractive to the eye. Sometimes, like, having that little bit of flair as opposed to Frank Lampard, it kind of convinces me, like, oh, maybe he was better because he could do these, you know, things that Lampard couldn't in the same way. But like, even though Frank Lampard was like a good old-fashioned arrive late in the box midfielder, those stats are absolutely insane.
Can I just say,
this is some people would say, oh, De Bruyne's miles clear. I don't think he's miles clear of that by any means.
From someone that was there week in, week out watching Frank Lampard, there's a lot of the Mandela effect that goes on. And exactly what you just said there, arriving late in the box. Lampard was a good player, man. Like Lampard could do a lot all over the pitch. No, but I think, and I'm not accusing anyone around this table of it, but it is a common thing in like the football world that there's that Mandela effect with Lampard in terms of like, yeah, but goal scorer or whatever. Lampard could put in a tackle. Lampard could spray a ball. Lampard could take over the play. Like, he did do everything. What I would like to know is, are we saying then, let's say in a hypothetical world, we were putting Kevin De Bruyne. It's not my opinion, but say we were putting him as number 1. Who's closest to him then?
My opinion, Paul Scholes. In my opinion, Paul Scholes. He was such an irreplaceable asset to that Sir Alex Ferguson team. His vision, his understanding of the game. He was a clutch player.
Do you know what annoys me is even this is going to come back to Scholes, Lampard and Gerrard. Fucking hell.
But I don't think it should. There's a weird thing, and by the way, there's going to be a lot of people watching this screaming at their monitors going, the reason that De Bruyne is in the most dominative team of the Premier League era is because of money. Is because of the money that was spent on this City team. That is the
Well, that is partly true.
And people are going to
spend money.
But people are going to point at players like Steven Gerrard, Salah, who played in teams that weren't quite there. Like, you mentioned the Fabregas stats, those assist stats. Do you know who Fabregas was assisting? I'm serious.
Bednar.
Adebayor. Like 18 months of Van Persie. Like, you got to give Fabregas his flowers. But I think the thing you got to say.
Diego Costa.
Yeah, right. But
he had some good ones. He also had some very bad Chelsea.
Costa wasn't long, though, was it? It wasn't as long as it.
It was a beautiful period.
Yeah, it was a very small shot. Like, I agree. Fabregas deserves his flowers for sure, as does Mo Salah.
But the money does skew it a little bit. But I do think that when we talk about the Guardiola era at City, I think because of the money, we sometimes forget some unbelievable players. For me, Yaya Toure gets into like Yaya Toure. On his day,
he's up there.
Is the most dominative midfielder I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen a football player like him who, it doesn't matter what you try and do, you can't stop him. You just can't stop. He'll run through you. He'll score from 40 yards. He'll play passes that you can't stop. On his day, he had absolutely everything. And
when we talk about De Bruyne being the driving force for City, that was Yaya Toure.
Mate.
Yaya Toure, when in the last sort of 10, 12 games of a season when he wanted to turn it on, he was unplayable.
And you talk about how Lampard came into that Chelsea team. Yaya Toure came into Manchester City as a 6, who'd started his career as a centre-back, who failed a trial at Arsenal as a centre-back, came into that Manchester City midfield under Mancini originally. Their tactic was pretty simple. If we're not winning a game at 70 minutes, put Gareth Barry on into 6, put him at 10 and let him just run through a team.
I have to round this up to a question, lads, because we have to talk about today's game. The question is simple. Is Kevin De Bruyne the greatest Premier League midfielder of all time? I'm going to start with Josh. Yes or no?
No, I don't think he's earned it yet.
Craig?
I'm saying yes.
Jacob?
Yeah.
No, but it could happen.
Not long left, though. He's getting on.
What do you think?
Honestly, I'm going to say yes. I just think he's been so influential and and the amount of titles, the amount of important seasons he's had where he has been the talisman. But I'm not taking anything away from the other guys because I agree. Yaya Toure, Paul Scholes, Steven Gerrard, they're all so many great ones. But for me, he's just been we're looking at one of the most dominant eras of football we've ever witnessed in the Premier League, to a point of it's a problem. It's not great for the league, in my opinion, in the long term. And if I look back at the Pep Guardiola era, someone's going to say who was the most important player for Pep Guardiola, just like they would with Sir Alex Ferguson's multiple eras. And I'm going to say Kevin De Bruyne. Yeah. And for that reason, I have to put him as number one.
Can I just say my 2 picks are treble winners, though? I was just pointing that out. I'm just saying, though, all these other players I got to the table were not treble winners.
We're nearly at the kickoff for Manchester United versus Spurs in a really important game for both clubs. Craig, how are you feeling ahead of this one, mate?
Not good. Not good. We were talking about it before. We haven't done the double. And Joey gave me the stat since '89 over Man United in the league. There was a period where
a record breaker, though, isn't he?
He is a record breaker for all the wrong reasons. Honestly. He is. But yeah, for that reason, and some people don't believe in superstition and whatever, but I just think we beat them earlier this season. I think they're at home. It's the new year. Sancho's gone. Ten Hag's going to really want them to put in a performance for him, because it seems like he does think about himself at times. I just don't have a good feeling. And also, we play a very, very high line and we give chances away to teams. And for the players they have, I think this type of game suits them on a counter-attacking vibe. I think Rashford, some of these players are going to find those spaces in behind Fernandes. They're going to pick certain passes out. So I think we're going to need a bit of luck to go our way. But yeah, I just don't have a good feeling.
You're going to miss Son as well. Big
Son, massive player. Yeah.
Although you have got a weapon in your team today.
Who?
Timo Werner.
what do we make of this, Chelsea lads? Can
I just say something? Because I remember Craig said it to me. We always apparently hate on the ex-Chelsea players. You won't hear no hate from me on Timo Werner.
That's weird. Why not?
I don't know, man.
Why Havertz but not Werner? Different Germans, but
I liked Timo because do you know what? I think, all right, if you're not great, you're not great. But I want to see some effort from you. And with Kai Havertz, sometimes, I'm not saying he didn't put no effort in, but it's just a bit like,
body
you're doing my nutting. Yeah, you know what I mean? Whereas with Timo Werner, I used to be like, you do try hard, you, don't I? He was almost like Chelsea's Almiron.
I knew it was coming.
I didn't hate him. I didn't hate him. And do you know what it was? I think when he came into Chelsea, we had a perception on him because of his record in the Bundesliga. We had this perception that he was going to be the saviour to score goals for us. And he just wasn't that. But when you were able to detach yourself from that and come away from it and go, are you actually an important player and do you do a job? Yeah, you do. And I actually think that potentially Spurs fans will warm to him quite quickly, Timo Werner. He puts a shift in.
In terms of the impact this game could have, I mean, Manchester United win, they go into the top six, joint top six with West Ham, which seems unbelievable after how bad they've been, which kind of is indicative of what this Premier League's been. Spurs, on the other hand, they go above Arsenal into the top four. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Jacob, I mean, that must be mental after the season news of
It's this time of year. This is what happens. It's congested fixture list. Yeah. Things change quickly. Mate, 2 weeks ago, we were top of the league at Christmas, and I had people in my group chats asking me which trophy parade I want to go to, either the Premier League or the Champions League. That's how cocky Arsenal fans were getting. And now we're at a situation where, as you say, Spurs go top. This, for me, is a huge top four game. This is a huge... Because for me, we're talking about Werner, right? And for me, has looked at January and gone, spend some money because top four's there. It could have been gone. How many did he lose on the bounce? Was it 3-4 games on the bounce?
I mean, you have to praise Spurs though, because they've been a club that have notoriously been awful in January, and they've actually made their moves incredibly quickly. They've got the business they need to get done early.
Let's watch him play football first, Josh. Let's see how these
slip in my mind.
Josh thought that Chelsea's business in the summer was good, so don't hold it against
No, but come on, they've got 2 signings in January. Like Man United are screaming out for signings. They haven't signed anyone.
I agree.
They've been quick and efficient. Let's see them on the pitch. Right, let's have a look how they do on the pitch. For me, this is a game where whoever wins this game, and I include Man United in that, sounds unbelievable. As you say, they go level with West Ham. Where are Newcastle?
Exactly.
Do you know, where are Chelsea?
Yeah. Where are Man United at the minute?
Where are you?
Yeah, just say it, Joey. What place are they in the league?
I don't know what place. They're below Chelsea, but I don't know where. They're somewhere.
No one
down there.
No one even pays attention to Man United's place anymore. This is mad.
Can I ask a question, right?
Ninth
you know you're saying you're worried about this game.
Yeah.
Is that because of obviously how long it dates back since Spurs have done the double? Because do you look at Man United's side, right, and the way they're performing at the minute, and that scares you?
Well, this is what I'm saying. It's all steeped in superstition and stuff.
Right.
I just feel like in the big games, they step up. We saw that a couple of weeks ago with Liverpool against Liverpool at Anfield. All right, yeah, they park the bus. But when it's big games, they find a way to find a performance of some sort. I'm more concerned about Man United against the shit teams where they're not putting in effort and they're thinking, we can maybe stroll this, or they're not going above and beyond for their manager week in, week out.
I feel like they're random. I feel like when I watch them in the Champions League, they're just so fucking random. I mean, before this game, the thing I found interesting is a lot of the table was saying, all right, Rashford, if you don't fucking deliver today, when are you going to? Because this Spurs side is set up to be counted on, and that's your game.
Yeah.
If Rashford has a stink of the day, I mean, what the fuck is the point, really?
I'll tell you what, I look at Spurs, especially today, and before I was thinking, maybe this will be a draw in this one, and I was sort of basing it off of what you said in terms of in the bigger games turning up ever so slightly, but I'm looking at them today and I'm thinking, do you know what, I think Spurs might cut through them a few times.
Even without Son, though? Because if Son was playing today, mentally I'd have them favourites.
I agree.
But without Son, it's totally different.
Casemiro's on the bench, by the way, and Martinez.
Well, yeah, less excuses from Ten Hag now, hopefully.
They're getting some players back. I have to say, I feel like Man United are Spurs' kryptonite in the fact of they are a complete counter-attacking team. They want to get on those transitionary moments. Now, like you say, if Rashford isn't bagging a goal in today and Højlund isn't getting in there and mucking it himself, then you really do have to question Man United, because the way that Spurs play, the high line, how they're going to be aggressive and press, that is a prime opportunity for these guys to go. And I have to say, the one that I'm looking at for me today is Garnacho. If he gets the ball over the top and he gets some space in to go and attack that back four, that's where I'm really
United fans have wanted this for a long time as well. A lot of my United mates have been saying we want to see Garnacho on the right, Rashford on the left. They see that as their strongest way of attacking. The problem is that they've got Højlund in the middle who can't finish. And if I think Spurs, you look at Spurs today, Porro's a really good player at right back. He's a really good player at right back, and I think if you were playing Emerson Royale at right back, I'd be saying, okay, this is Rashford's day today. But that's a good defender. They've got a striker who can't score. Man United. For me, it's the midfield. I look at Eriksen and Maynard, and I really like Maynard. He's really good, man. And I think Eriksen, he's literally put in there today to find those balls over the top quickly, try and hit Rashford, try and hit Garnacho, get behind.
I think that could be where the opportunities lie for Spurs in terms of. Spurs as a passing side, I'm not sure with Maino being so young and Eriksen being very hit and miss, if they're ready for the level of pressure. That's where, when Newcastle went to Old Trafford in the Cup this season, that's where we had a lot of successes. Their centre midfield is left exposed so often.
Tell you what I do think we could agree on. If Spurs have Madison and Son in there today, they'd be Man United's to shreds.
And Bissouma and Sarr as well. As you're talking about the passing midfield, the only thing is, I'm looking at that Spurs midfield.
That's what I was about to say.
It's the weakest area
Skip and Højbjerg there with Bentancur. It doesn't excite me, man.
Exactly.
And our bench is light.
So we're all in agreement that Man United should win today. They should be favourites because of how destroyed Spurs.
I think Spurs are the favourites, but I think Man United will.
I'm not just going to look at
Man United are.
Yeah, I'm not just going to look at the team sheet and draw that conclusion. I'm going to look at the form this season, how they've played, and I'm going to say I'd imagine Spurs to probably be the more likely to win this game. And also, position we haven't spoke about here is goalkeeper, right? Vicario's been amazing. It just popped up on screen. His XG prevented is double that of Onana's. People aren't just going to be taking a shot from anywhere against Vicario, because what's the point? You're just giving away possession. With Onana, I would be advising my players, if I was a manager, to do it, because I'd be thinking he might not save it, but he'd definitely spill it in front of him.
Should we do some predictions before we get into it? What do you reckon around the table? Joey, do you want to kick off?
I think it will be chaos for some reason, this match. I'm going to say a 3-2 to Spurs.
I'll flip that 3-2 United. I just looking at the players on the pitch and the fact that Jim Ratcliffe's in the stadium as well. What we spoke about with Manchester City yesterday, that being a statement win for them. If you're Manchester United, this should be, with the players that Spurs are missing, this should be a statement win.
Is he in the stadium, is he?
Yeah, and he's done a big tour.
I agree. 3-2 Man United. What are you saying, Craig?
I'm going 2-2. I'm going to go a draw. I'm not going to say Spurs are going to lose, but I reckon a draw.
I'm going to go 2-1 United.
I tell you what, if Spurs do, because this is quite close to full strength Man United now. They're getting a lot of players back. I think this would be massive for Spurs. We need to take anything from this.
We need to silence the crowd. I just think in these big games at Old Trafford, the crowd can just have such a big effect. If we can just maybe get that first goal and quiet them, I think it will be a problem for United.
I do wonder from a Man United perspective who isn't on the pitch today that they would want on the pitch. You know, like the fans love Maino, and I really like him. I think in terms of their midfield, you'd want Casemiro in there. Apart from Casemiro, I can't really think of anyone else that you want.
Sure,
yes.
definitely.
Maybe. I mean, he's their top scorer, but I don't know who you take out of the team.
I don't know
why
fans are thrilled with McTominay. Generally, his positional sense is horrendous, and actually, Maino, even though he's 18, seems to have a much better eye for where to be on the pitch. Chance to flick it through. Spurs playing around nicely, edge of the box.
I just can't
cross in, back post.
Any way how this is a boring match. When I look at these two, how they line up, and it might be down to actually their vulnerabilities, I don't see any way how it's not an end-to-end game.
Saying that, Rashford's in here on the left-hand side.
He's on the left.
You know he wants to cut on his right. You know he wants to cut on his right. You know that.
So
Højlund's got him on his left.
Goal! 1-0! What a strike from the young lad! What? Sing the song.
Waiting for a miracle.
Do you know what it is? That left foot ping it fucking right at the top corner. Beautiful.
I was ready to hammer him as well because he took the ball off Rashford's feet, didn't it? It was like Rashford doing Rashford stuff, and he took the ball off his feet.
I have to say, we've been waiting for this moment though with Højlund, haven't we?
No, we haven't.
No, but everyone
Craig weren't waiting.
He's been one of those strikers who does a lot of the good bit, and then the final moment, it's not been there for him. And obviously the confidence is there now. He scored his first goal in the Premier League recently, and maybe that's going to help him get kicking on.
Who's up?
He's on side.
Didn't Rashford make a bit of a fucking pig's ear of this stuff?
He did. He really
got lucky here.
Yeah. And he's cutting inside, gets tackled by Dogi, and then the finish is just absolutely ridiculous.
Mate, that is quality.
Why do we did this?
Is he a left-footed player?
We did this with Jackson. We did this with Jackson. We have a habit of giving strikers that don't score goals.
Yeah,
I tell you, you just put his laces through it, old school.
Romero, you've got to put in a better challenge.
Mate, not just the challenge there, but Romero's the one dropping deep. It's the pass from Bruno Fernandes that goes through. It's because Romero's a yard deeper than the rest of the defensive.
To be fair, Craig, before the game, you said that Dragosin should have started over Romero, didn't you?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said instead of Royale.
I'm winding you up.
I look at that Spurs back line though. For me, Romero's the liability.
Yeah,
I think he's an absolute liability.
Nah, he has his moments, but he's an important player for us though, because the way he passes out and breaks lines,
I think because of the headline moments he has normally, being send-ins off or things like that, you don't actually realise the amount of good stuff he does in a game.
So is this guy that's come in, this new centre-back, is he going to be a backup centre-back then? Because he's not come in to be a backup centre-back.
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But so basically, the story that the transfer happened in the very last minute, that Bayern Munich wanted to buy him, and that he turned Bayern Munich down. Yeah. That Bayern Munich offered him more money.
I don't think he's going to start for Bayern though.
But what the Spurs hierarchy apparently said to him is that you'll get a lot more playing time at Spurs than you would at Bayern.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to start. Maybe it's rotation. Maybe they're thinking if we get Champions League, you're going to get more opportunities. I don't know, man.
And Bayern went and got a better centre back.
In Dyer.
Unbelievable centre back.
Spurs are right back at it again, by the way. They're already at the opposite end, getting a corner. Thanks to an Onana. A little Onana trying to pass it around with the defenders, and didn't go according to plan as Spurs closed them down. Let's catch up a bit on Chelsea. Lads, you got a win. Pretty good. Happy with that?
Do you know what? This season feels like it could be like on a knife edge. Like I feel like after the Borough result, half the fans were saying that the season's done and that Pochettino should be sacked. And then we get a good win against Fulham and we've won 4 games on a row at home and it all feels very happy, doesn't it? So it's a bit of a weird up and down
you sound
season.
like you're not really sure sort of what to feel or think when you say that.
I don't know how I feel.
There was a point early on in the season when I was going, look, the results aren't going our way, but we're playing some nice football. And I was arguing that maybe there was when you look at, obviously, Man United who are playing today, and I was looking at Man United and I was thinking, do you know what? In some of their games, Nottingham Forest, Wolves at home, they've been absolutely awful, but got points on the board. And of course, I would always rather points on the board. But I was going, well, would I want to play like that, or would I want to play like this, and then when it comes good, it comes really good? Whereas now we've almost regressed in the way we play, in terms of we aren't always the better team, but Mauricio Pochettino does have a little trait of being able to get wins. You know, we got a win in the Crystal Palace game where it was really, really close, and maybe on another day we wouldn't have, had it not been for a last minute penalty. Yesterday against Fulham, we've got the 3 points on the board, and actually, when you look at the table right now, the crazy thing is, we're above Newcastle, we're above Man United as it stands, with them leading, we're probably not. But, we're back in there where it's like, do you know what? A couple of good results, maybe we could be qualifying for Europa League football or something like that, which course, if you chuck the billion at me, then you're going to say, what, Europa League football? But actually, when you're living in the moment and, you know, we've had some hard times this season, would I like Europa League football? Yeah, I would. So I can completely emphasise with Josh, it's very, very hard to understand where we're at right now. Ultimately, we are getting points on the board in games that last season we wouldn't have. So is that progression?
So the stat that Chelsea fans are using at the moment is in the same games as last year, we had 9 points less. So in the same games played, we would have had 9 points less than this season. So there's overall progression there.
Yeah, but then remember what else last year? We had those 3 wins that Thomas Tuchel gave us.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'd have had them.
We would have. No. But the difficulty that I haven't been very optimistic about what we're doing now, because if you say 4 wins at home, you know, in the league, you know, the form is good. But the fact of the matter is we've got a very hard run of fixtures coming up. So you know that you're almost on the knife edge now, where you've got, you know, Liverpool coming up, you've got City, you've got some very, very difficult games.
That's
coming
what
up.
Newcastle are going through right now.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, and there will be those runs that come up in the season where you go, oh, I really do worry how many points we're going to get out of there. And I have to say, like, we should have been beating the teams that we've beaten in this run of games where we've had this good run of form. We should be beating them. So
the Borough result was an eye opener. Like. It was like for us to go out to use in that cup and see how much you struggle with Borough. It felt like what we fucking let you go through, and this is how you fucking like. I couldn't. And to be honest with you, I've sort of been listening to you guys for most of the season and hearing those, you know, calls of where we're playing well, but we're not getting the results, and when eventually that will. And then, as you've said, I've noticed lately watching Chelsea, I thought, they ain't playing well here. They're not playing well at all a lot of the time.
No, we've regressed in our style of play. But then what we've also got to look at is the fact of the injuries. And obviously, we have been hampered by injuries.
Well, and Nkunku coming back and then getting injured again is mental.
Yeah. And Lavia as well. Lavia plays 15 minutes and gets injured.
But the thing is the point I'm kind of getting at is, Spurs, is the players you have on the pitch against the players the oppositions have had on the pitch. I've been like, okay, I'm expecting a win today, and I'm expecting what is a confident performance. And if anything, it looks like it's getting worse to me. And that was where we were in the group chat recently. I thought, you know what? If Pochettino had a striker who he could hang his hat on to score goals, I'd have a better idea of where they are right now. I still feel like it's hard to judge Poch, because as with Isak playing for Newcastle, it's such a fucking difference maker when you've got a striker who you're confident. But that being said, I'd be very worried if I was a Chelsea fan right now, because the level of football I'm seeing, the results I'm seeing, it's very rare that a manager can perform like this and then go from here where Chelsea want to go, which is challenging for titles, top 4 minimum. It doesn't look like it's coming to me.
You know, a lot of people's blood would boil when you said about Pochettino there, especially if it was me saying it, a Chelsea fan. And I said about, you know, Pochettino potentially making signings and whatnot, because everyone says, you know, we've spent $1 billion. Pochettino himself, since his managerial reign started, 400 million. But I'll say to you that Nkunku, Jackson and Malo Gusto weren't Pochettino signings. They were definitely not. They were pre-agreements before he had signed for the job. Then other ones, a lot of Chelsea fans that understand what's going on at boardroom level would argue even they weren't his signings. But if you're going on, they are his signings. Then you're going Caicedo, you're going Lavia, you're going Ugachukwu, Cole Palmer, and then you got Sanchez, and I think there's one other. So when you look at that and you actually go, well, hold on, out of those players there,
Timo Werner nearly straight in with a header at the far post.
Timo Werner heads it just wide, but it is deflected out, and Delo and Evans having a bit of a word here.
So out of the players there, Caicedo, I think, has been a good signing. I do genuinely think, okay, you could go on price tag, but I actually think he's performing quite well. Lavia, we haven't seen him to know. Ugachukwu, when we've seen him, he's actually looked decent, but we haven't seen him because of the injury. Sanchez is probably the only one there, and Disasi, that was the last one, that you probably go, not great signing. So I actually think that if the form stays as it is, I would be confident giving Pochettino the money and backing him. Another thing as well, right? When we speak about Pochettino's main thing he's got going against him, another chance.
Spurs are all over this, yeah. They've got to make something happen because they're on top of Man United.
Ball on the edge of the box for Spurs.
Absolutely beautiful switch pass there.
I think the point I'm making isn't really about letting Poch have the money, though. It's just Poch and these players gelling together. Like that's the sort of thing that I'm like. I understand he's not. Bowley's a fucking batshit crazy. You know, he's been mental with this money and he's not spent it well. But I'm more just looking at the overall squad and thinking of the teams Chelsea are coming up against. I'm like, you're making hard work of this, like, and you know, when you're all winning, it's like scraping the wins. And I'm looking at this thinking, where is this going? And like with Newcastle, even when we lose some games, I'm like, yeah, I can still see where we're going. I'm not really, but with Chelsea, I'm not seeing an identity or a direction. With Chelsea, I'm not seeing that the identity, direction, or really like a fluid playing style where I'm like, yeah, this is something's happening here. I don't feel like that at all when I.
When we look at the top performing managers in the league, right? Obviously, of course, the exception to the rule is Unai Emery. But if you look at the top of the table, you look at Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, and obviously Arteta, who's in the top 4 of Arsenal at the moment. In their first season, those 3 managers, they weren't really doing all that much different to Pochettino. They were getting results. They were keeping the team sort of up there and thereabouts, but they weren't really lighting the world on fire. Now, obviously, Eddie Howe and Unai Emery are the exceptions to the rules because all of a sudden they've come in and it's been straight away like a real uplift. But what I'm saying is there are some cases where it doesn't happen straight away. Now, I think the point that you would make is if it's going really bad, which obviously, Wednesday evening, that's how it was feeling after we had played and lost the night before to a championship team who themselves had 14 injuries. It felt really bad. But actually, when the dust settles a little bit and we get the win over Fulham, we're looking at it now going, okay, it's clearly not going to be one of those seasons that I think the cap of what our expectations were or what our hopes were in terms of competing for top 4. But actually, if we end up qualifying for Europa League this season and towards the back end of the season, we start to see a style of play a little bit more, I think a lot of the Chelsea fan base would be definitely confident in Pochettino's ability managing these players going forward.
When I watched the Fulham game, I was just like, this is crap. This Fulham were horrendous, and Chelsea were like, yeah, or a bit better than that. But like the goal, the penalty for me, it wasn't a penalty. I think Raheem Sterling took the minor bit of contact, threw himself to the floor, and that's the Premier League.
He won the penalty.
Yeah, he won the penalty. He played cleverly to do it, but equally, I'm like, without that, where's the goal? I didn't feel like it was like pressure and piling on. And also, Chelsea were very lucky not to get a player sent off, which could have changed the game entirely as well. So, like, and that's how I watch a lot of Chelsea games. I'm like, yeah, when they win, but I'm never like, oh, that is. You can build on that. It's very rare.
Do you know what I like?
Got over the line.
Did you hear Pochettino's comments about the Malagusto potential red card? He went, yeah, probably should have been a red card. And I thought, that's well refreshing to actually hear a manager do that. And you'd think I'd argue it because it was, my manager and whatnot. I actually like it. I was saying before, when we thought that Klopp was going to blow the top after the game we were covering on the kickoff, and he sort of kept quite calm. It's actually quite refreshing sometimes to hear a manager go, probably should have been a red card, yeah.
Do you know what that does, though? If you're honest, it means that when you do complain, it actually makes people take notice of you. Whereas if you're a whiny, complaining little bitch who does nothing but complain, not saying
anyone in mind, anyone in mind,
but it's just like you're always moaning. So who cares? Do you know what I mean? It's all waffle. Whereas Poch actually makes a difference.
I'll tell you one thing for a little bit of inside scoop here. I was talking to Joe Cole.
You're talking to Barber again,
yeah. Joe Cole, he will not get his hair cut by my barber because he hasn't got any. No, joking. No. He was basically saying that he's spent a bit of time up at Cobham this week, and obviously there's a small part of me, not a suspicion, but a small part of me that wonders what the atmosphere is like at the training ground, because Levi Colwell's being played out of position a lot of the time, and Levi Colwell will know himself, I'm not a left back, I'm coming under unfair criticism because I'm being played out of position. There's other players that are the same, and this was off camera, so it wasn't for a Chelsea bias here. Joe said to me, he went, the players love Poch. He said, he said, I remember being at Cobham, being a player, he said, and the atmosphere at training ground's really, really good. He said, I was there expecting it to be tense because it was coming off the back of the Borough defeat. And he said, this week has been really good. They're really having Poch. They love him. It's a good harmony at the training ground. So that gives me a bit of optimism. It can be as good as it wants at the training ground. We need to see it on the pitch. But progression-wise, it makes me think, okay, let's stick with this. Let's not jump the gun.
Craig, how are you feeling, mate? You don't look happy.
Yeah, it's just that realisation that the bad feeling I had about the game is coming to fruition.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I knew Man United would be up for this game. They're up for this game.
You've been on top a little bit, though.
Nah, we ain't been on top. We've created chances, but this even Man United, this is like as far forward as I've seen them. They're not really playing counter football. They're actually playing against us, which I didn't... It's not that I didn't expect it, because we're not Liverpool at Anfield where you're going to sit back, but they're actually playing. Like, they're going for it. And it's worrying. Because we haven't found our rhythm.
What do the lads think about this Jadon Sancho situation? So he's finally made the move back to Borussia Dortmund. and he's publicly congratulated on his move by Marcus Rashford, who's Mr. Manchester United, one of the highest paid players at the club, talisman. And obviously, given the fact that there's been a very public disagreement, what do we make of the fact that Rashford has publicly backed Sancho after telling the manager, Ten Hag, essentially to go and fuck himself?
Well, that's it. He's Mr. Man United, but he's not Mr. Ten Hag. And as a fan, I'd find this such a strange era to look at as a Man United era, because Rashford should be their not just talisman, he's everything, man. They've given him a huge contract. For me, he's easily the most talented forward in that team. And he just feels so kind of cut off from the manager, from the rest of the team. Like, the performance has been on and off. I actually thought, you're right, Brian, it's a poor first touch when that pass came to him from Bruno Fernandes. But what he did with it afterwards, I thought was quite nice. But it must be such a strange thing. And as a United fan, I do, as United fans, I wonder how they feel about Sancho leaving, because I know he wasn't good. I know he's definitely not quick enough to be a winger in this league. He's still such a talented footballer. And when you're looking at this team, this Man United team that have lacked talented attacking players this season so much, like to watch him walk out the door on a loan to Dortmund, and God knows what his future is, by the way. Like, it's going to be so hard for them to shift him because of that contract. Who's going to pay him 350 grand a week? But there's no certainty that he's going to return to Man United. And for me, it feels like there's a core of players at Man United who are waiting for the manager to go. Sancho's one, Rashford's another.
You know why Rashford congratulated him? Because Rashford knows the truth.
Well, I think it's personally, and I know Manchester United fans were all over Twitter when I tweeted this out. You're delusional. Like, you don't want it to be the way it is, but you have to accept logic here. A player of Rashford's level, he can send a text message. It doesn't have to be public. It's public for a reason, and it's public because he wants the world to know, I'm backing you, bro. Well done. You got your move. That is an absolute fuck you to Ten Hag.
Let's go, Richie.
From the corner,
Needed that.
Fuck me.
He's on a goal scoring form right
Do you
now.
know what?
been playing
This
well.
has been coming because how many corners have gone in
And crosses.
created dangerous. What the fuck is Onana doing with these crosses?
I don't know. But
He's
that's 6 and 7 for Richarlison, though.
We knew this was going to be goals in this game.
Yeah. 6 and 7 for Richarlison. He's
Well, that's so arrogant. I'm down for it.
Yeah.
Love that.
Let's have a look at
Who
it.
whips this in? It's just Porro. Porro whips the corner in.
Nice.
Just easy header. Who's
Mate,
marking him
that's
here?
poor
Wan-Bissaka.
defending.
Wan-Bissaka
Oh
is
my God.
marking
No
him.
one's marking him as the answer. No one.
He doesn't even go up for the header.
Hoyland's in no man's land there as well. That's such poor
Well,
defending.
he's marking Van der Ven here.
He's having a little cuddle with Van
Yeah.
Ven.
And then, Wan-Bissaka just doesn't jump.
Just glanced it in. Yes, we're right back in it.
I don't know if that's an or not.
Go on,
Yes,
Ed.
mate.
But that had been coming from all those corners before. It's not a surprise, is it? It's not a fluke by any means. Rashford easily could have just sent a text message. It's public for a reason, and I think that should worry Manchester United, and that's why Man United fans are coming after me by pointing it out, because they don't like the fucking truth. But the truth of the matter is, your guy is literally backing a lad from walking away from your manager. If that doesn't make you feel like there's a problem here, I don't know what does.
But the weird thing about Man United fans, when you read about how they comment online, they've gone Ten Hag over Rashford.
Of course they have.
They've thrown Rashford to the wolves, mate. And I know he doesn't track back on it, but it's like, come on, this is your guy. This is your academy hero.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but the logic seems to be, these players down tools, they throw the manager under the bus. Last season, Rashford saved that club. Like, he dragged them to the Champions League spot. Without Rashford's goals last season, which have conveniently been forgotten because he's had a bad season this season, and it's all... So when it was last season, it was all Ten Hag's greatness. This season, it's all Rashford's fault for not scoring. There's no share of the blame. 100%. And it's fucking stupid. Like, it should be equal share. They both have responsibility.
It's not just Rashford and the other Man United and other Premier League footballers that you saw commenting on that post. There's been others that have made comments in the media. So like the CEO of Borussia Dortmund, right, Hans Joachim, his name is, he said definitively, Jadon Sancho has no discipline problem. I have no idea who made up that story. You're a liar. You do have an idea who made up that story. His name's Ten Hag. But also, okay, don't just take his word for it, because he's got an interest. He's got a horse in the race because now he's got him at Dortmund. What about Ralf Rangnick? Ralph Rangnick said in the months that I worked with Jadon Sancho, he didn't have one shred of a disciplinary problem. So I don't know where that's come from. Everyone around the player, like, it's becoming apparent, isn't it? Like, if a player does have bad discipline, like, mate, one of my pastimes is I watch like ex-Premier League footballers when they go on podcasts and stuff like that, and all the time they'll go, "Oh, he was a brilliant player, but fuck me, he used to miss training all the time, this and that and whatever." They'll normally accept that sometimes a player can be really good, but the discipline wasn't there, the attitude wasn't there. It's almost the flip reversal of that. A lot of people are sort of looking at this going, okay, Sancho hasn't performed to the level, but there's been nothing wrong with his discipline, with his attitude, anything like that. And I think it's a case of when things haven't been going that well, Ten Hag has made an example behind closed doors or wherever it is.
Bang it.
Bernard.
Welcome to the Premier League. Timo, it's great to see you again.
Stinks.
Oh,
Timo, what the hell?
But, you know.
Do you know what though?
Oh,
It's
Shove
still
liver
good.
right
like
foot.
real
Stinks.
talk. When Ten Hag brought Anthony in, that was his guy. And when he was challenged by Sancho, the loyalty was to his signing. So you were never going to win that. But like, I think the question has to be: would Ten Hag have acted the way he did towards Sancho if he hadn't have just spent 85 million on Anthony, who he knew, I'm backing my guy over you no matter what the fuck you do, because he needs to work, because he needs to make me look good. So I think that it's just been an absolute mess.
I just think he doubled down on the on the words he said in that press conference. And Craig put it best, yeah. I remember you saying this after it. If Man United hadn't have just lost that game, and he's asked about Jadon Sancho, does he give that answer?
No.
He doesn't give that answer.
So specifically though, in regards to Rashford, what do we make of him publicly saying, you know, good look, you sort of shit?
Go again, Timo.
Well, he's saying it in his body language anyway, almost. I know that's very
But
much
this is
like
very
reading
definitive.
into things, but yeah, I mean, there's always the thing of if anyone was or had the luxury of being able to put that question to Marcus Rashford, which, as we know from the media stuff, they wouldn't be able to. But if they did put that question to him, he would just say, "It's a teammate of mine. I wish every teammate well." That, you know,
Of course.
he would have his way of getting round.
But he has. Let's not make no mistake about it. Rashford was the only one, because he's the one who knows, I've got a fucking 5-year deal, just signed it, mate. No one's fucking pushing me around, not even Ten Hag. I've got more power at this club than him, arguably, like in terms of longevity, in terms of as an asset, in terms of how much money I can make the club, not only on the pitch, but in sale, not in shirt sales as well, but in a future transfer. So he's got the balls because of that power. But if he's putting that publicly, surely the other footballers at Manchester United are also...
100%.
You know,
it feels like he's the loud voice for what is probably a group of
He's
players.
standing on business, as they say.
100%, man. And it's the same as the nightclub pictures. You remember after a few losses, there was, you know, Rashford pitching nightclubs at 3 a.m. It's like he knows he's doing that. Do you know what I mean? If he wants to go, like, he can go somewhere quiet
100%.
where he's not going to get papped. He knows he's going to get papped. It's all a play. Like
I've heard he likes to bring the ladies into the sort of VIP and all of that, you know.
Yeah,
what I mean?
but they-
popping bottles.
There's VIPs where you don't get your photo taken. When you're
That's called a strip club.
yeah, I wouldn't know.
What's that?
Have we ever seen like a saga like this before, do you think? The Sancho and Ten Hag one of like this magnitude where a player's been frozen out for this period of
Not
time.
a player that
Tevez.
valuable. That's the thing that gets it for me, is how valuable Sancho could have been.
Do you remember the Tevez one when he refused to come on off the bench? No. In the Champions League.
I remember
Champions
that,
League, yeah.
What was he
asked-
frozen out for months? Like this, and then,
Who was the manager at the time? It was Man City. Tevez was on the bench against Bayern Munich in the Champions League.
think it was Mancini,
I think it was Mancini asked him to come on, and Tevez said no. Tevez said, no, no point in me coming on now. Like, we're losing the game 10 minutes to go, whatever. And in the end, Tevez ended up coming back into the team.
without apologising.
I don't think he did apologise.
What's in? Okay, fair enough. But what's interesting about this one is the context of, all right, you're freezing Sancho out because he didn't apologise. Cool, that's your right as a manager. Okay, you want respect in the dressing room. We get that. But when the player you have replacing him, Anthony, has been that shit for that amount of money, it's starting to feel like you're cutting your nose to spite your face a bit, because really at the end of the day, I know there needs to be respect, like I said, but the greater good is the success of the team. Do you know what I mean? And they have, on the right, they're playing Garnacho there now. Anthony's been diabolical.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, someone should have got them together a long time ago and sat them down and reconciled this.
Think how many players and people that have spent time around Jadon Sancho are in the media doing punditry work and whatever. We've heard so many people come out now saying he has no disciplinary problems, he's not like that. We haven't heard one go, do you know what? He is a bit like that. We had a bit of trouble with him, whatever. So what I'm saying is, when you look at the fact that he hasn't apologised, why hasn't he apologised? I'll tell you what, I don't care whether everything in my life turns upside down. If I've not done something, I am not apologising for it.
And if you're such a rotten apple, Dortmund wouldn't have been in such a rush to take you back. They took him back and he got an assist straight away.
Yeah.
And I guarantee every time he gets a goal or an assist, Ten Hag will be like, fuck.
In football, things spread quickly behind the scenes. People know. They do the character profile now and all of these sorts of things, and they decide, is he good for the dressing room?
Manchester United are really not playing the ball out very well in their own third here, but they're on the counter now. They've got lucky from a bad bit of control from Spurs. Forward. Nice tackle on Rashford.
Thank you, Robert.
It just feels like Joey was talking about earlier on about Joe Cole saying that the Chelsea squad really like Pochettino and that he's got them all together and they're a bit more of a team. It does feel that United are like the complete opposite, where it feels like every week you've got 50% of the players that are actively like I've heard that. I've seen tweets of people saying that like literally 50% of the squad are like sick of Ten Hag and they're ready for him to go. And it does feel with Ten Hag that he's a bit of a manager from a bygone era in the fact of he's a disciplinarian. He runs his club like he like that old school way, almost Sir Alex Ferguson-esque, but Sir Alex Ferguson was also a brilliant manager and could also get
and he got his signings right as well, so he didn't look stupid when he was doing this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So it just feels to me like Ten Hag is going to be the one that will leave first.
Can I ask you a question? Let's say Sir Alex Ferguson was in the social media era. Would one of his main players be congratulating a lad who'd fucked him off so publicly?
No.
Publicly.
But
Sir Alex Ferguson would have dragged him in that fucking dressing room, kicked the shit out of him.
Players didn't have power back then like they do today, though. Players have a lot of power.
I think they did. I just think that Sir Alex got so much right. He had more.
Not in that Man United squad. I remember him kicking David Beckham out of that team because he was fed up with him because he had other players because he didn't need David Beckham. We're watching this game right now. Who's starting for Man United left wing? Rashford. The problem is he's built such a poor squad that he can't, even the players he's gone to war with, even the players that are mugging him off on the internet, he has to play them because the players that he's brought in are so bad. And if you're Jim Ratcliffe, you'd be sitting here watching this, you'd be going, right, okay, I've got this, Rashford, highest paid player at the club, academy product. He should be the darling of the fan base, right? Not just because of the player, it's because of the stuff he's done off the pitch. And you've lost that. And if you want to reconnect the fans to the team, surely he's one of the pillars of that. You're looking at Jadon Sancho, as we say, as soon as he's out the door to Dortmund, he's assisting goals again. You'd be looking at that and going, we've invested money in this. Big contract.
There's no way that Sancho would have done worse than Antony. It's literally mathematically impossible.
So if you're Ratcliffe, you're looking at this going, right, okay, it's not just the older players who are fed up with Ten Hag here. It's the young, promising players that we're giving big contracts to. Or we've got the manager who keeps signing players like Antony. Which horse do you back?
Well, it's an easy decision as well. And like Brailsford is in there right now, Team Sky, cycling, British cycling, amazing sort of like analyzer of people and gets the best out of organisations in the sporting world. He's in there doing the review right now, and you can absolutely be assured of the side that he's going to go down. You look at what's dysfunctional and it's the management of that football club. It's not necessarily always the players. Like you look at Rashford, you've seen what he's done in the past. He has played excellently for Man United.
Well, I mean, you're literally there as a manager to get the best out of players. And he's got a chance to cross it in now.
Is he onside?
Rashford, straight at the keeper.
Straight at the keeper.
Yeah, it's poor that.
Brilliant timing.
From an England perspective, though, I feel a bit sad looking at this because I'm looking at England and I'm looking at Rashford and Sancho. I'm like, they should be first names on the team sheet. They should be two of our most important players, especially Sancho.
Brings us on to a good point here because we are going to be ranking the best wingers from England. Here because there is a lot of debate on who should be playing for England and all of that, and obviously some players are out of form at the minute. Where do we rank them in terms of how good they are? We're going to list them out now. We've got Grealish, Rashford, Saka, Sterling, Gordon, Palmer, Bowen, Sancho, Foden. Off of that, lads, anyone?
Let's start on form. Let's go on form.
Well,
I'll tell you the form three: Bowen, Palmer, and
Foden.
Gordon.
Well, not Foden.
Foden?
Foden's up there. But on form right now, like, it's mad because I'm not going to sit here and say that Palmer needs to be in there ahead of Saka long term. But if we're on the form right now, Palmer is outperforming Saka, he's outperforming Rashford. For this minute, he's outperforming Sancho, you just mentioned there. He's outperforming Grealish. There's only really an argument that you could go, okay, Foden does go under the radar. Foden has been playing well. But there's only really him. And then obviously you look at Bowen's numbers and Anthony Gordon.
But do you not look at Foden and go, Foden should be getting more like goals and assists for the team that he's in? Like, he plays for Man City, one of the best teams in the country, and you know Bowen has got more goal involvements than him this season.
He doesn't really. Does he play on the wing for City? I don't know. It's a bit. I know
he
you class him as a winger for England.
I think the hard thing was without Kevin De Bruyne, he has been allowed to drift inside a lot more, and it's been great to watch. I mean, the goal he scored against Everton was fantastic. In terms of goal involvements, you've got Bowen, who's got 13 in terms of 11 goals, 2 assists. Obviously, Sancho's not even worth talking about. Palmer is on also 13. Sterling is on 8 in the league.
Saka's on 12, isn't he? Saka's 6 goals, 6 assists.
Yeah.
Which for people saying he's having a really bad season, he's still second out of all these guys. So it's like, I think Saka's the one you look at who, for me, Foden as well, but
Foden's on 11.
You know what?
Saka has to play.
Can I just
I think Foden and Saka are the premier talents in terms of talent, in terms of what they're capable of. I think they're the premier talents in that group. In terms of form, it's a completely different question.
I'll argue it though, right? Not if we're going off of form in an England shirt. I think you're right. Straight away, Saka is the first wide man
100%.
in an England shirt that I'd have on there, right? Foden's not. For me. And a lot of people would argue positionally, Southgate's not playing him in the right way, doesn't have the trust in him, just doesn't get the best out of him. Maybe that's why an England shirt. So I think the other spot is the one up for grabs. And the disappointing thing, not to say they won't be given caps here and there, but we're not going to, in my opinion, see enough in between now and the Euros of Anthony Gordon and Cole Palmer in an England shirt. I'm sure we'll see glimpses of them, but not enough of them.
Do we need that?
There.
Like I know we're dealing with Southgate here.
That's why it's so hard to answer the question though, because we're dealing with Southgate.
Well, fuck Southgate out of it then. Let's talk about who we actually rate as, the best guys right now. Like, who's your best 3 out of that group right now?
Best 3?
Right now, performing right now.
Can I be completely unbiased? What I would like to see, and this, Josh, this will upset you. It'll upset a lot of the Chelsea fans. For some reason, something about Saka, Kane, and Gordon really, really excites me.
I was just
we're
about
talking
to
about
say
England again, though, aren't we? Are we talking about England?
Still,
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Saka, Kane, Gordon.
the thing about Gordon is he's I think he gives real nice balance to that because, like, Saka's a real playmaker. Kane, we know his passability. Gordon just goes behind.
I can't believe the way Gordon's spoken about, by people. People have been calling him a fraud. Like, he's not that good. Like, if you look at the way Anthony Gordon has delivered against big sides this season, he scored against Manchester United. He set up Isak against Liverpool. Scored against Manchester City. Like, he has no fear. And also, when you're off the ball, he works his absolute balls off. And in terms of goals and assists this season, where is he at? He's got 7 goals and 5 assists. Like, his ratio is fantastic.
He does.
By the way, Cole Palmer has how many penalties?
5.
Right, 5 penalties.
5.
So Gordon, without any penalties, is absolutely destroying that.
And
5 out of 5 though. Not like he's had 10 and he's put away half. And 5 out of 5, which is a skill.
And I really rate Cole Palmer. I'm not.
I tell you what Gordon does.
But I think Gordon's having a better season.
You know when Gordon scores, a lot of the time he makes that goal. Like it's not put on a plate to him. We're not comparing him with anyone. I'm not saying Cole Palmer's he makes a lot, but like even the goal against City, you got the ball in a threatening position. But my God, Gordon made it.
He had 2
himself.
players ahead of him, and he whips it into the
He's
bottom
quality,
corner.
man.
Yeah.
He really excites me, and he's the one that I think if you chuck him in, you could see a Rooney 04 vibe there. You could see something.
Are we being
like
unfair
that
to Bowen, who's got 13?
Yeah,
goals?
I was just about to say, for me, what was the original question?
So in terms of, I was going to put it as ranking, but obviously immediately it becomes who you start for England. But in terms of like where you rank these players, I mean, there's quite a lot. There's 9. So let's say top 5 out of the 9. Again, you've got Grealish, Rashford, Foden, Saka, Bowen, Sancho, Gordon, Palmer, Sterling.
Are we saying right now or just in general?
Yeah, who's your top 5 wingers? Ideally in order.
For me, I'm having Saka at 1.
And he's an Arsenal player, so it's I don't even want to say that, but I think when he plays, for me, I'm the most afraid out of all of them. He's very direct. He gets at you. He gets the numbers. He gets the goals. He gets the assists. All right, the last few weeks he's gone off the boil a bit, but I think everyone in the Arsenal team has.
I think Saka's got to be in there.
I agree as Saka number one personally. I agree.
I'd say Saka's one of the spots. Definitely.
But is he your number one? Because for me, I agree he's number one.
Yeah.
I'd say based on the last 2 years, for me, he has to be number one.
He's the most talented player. He's the most decisive player.
Whoa. Most talented?
I think he's the most talented player in that
Foden
list.
is, personally, but...
The thing with Foden is, as we've said, is he a winger? I don't really know. He does play wide for England. I think he's maybe looked better playing wide for England. But when I think of a winger,
let's just throw him in there because he does play this.
We're calling them forwards, aren't we?
Yeah, we're calling them forwards.
Talking of doing these, come on, lads, make my life easier.
Jarrod Bowen's just not sexy enough, is he?
What do you mean? He is.
Do you know what I mean? No, I know.
He's
It's
so
mad to
techie.
say that. I know I'm sounding like a complete idiot by saying that, but I can't put it in any other way that makes sense.
He's
because
been
he
the
plays-
best player for West Ham.
It's because he plays for West Ham.
It's going to be another Declan Rice when
That's
he
just
leaves.
all it
and
is,
he's
yeah.
just
Now he's at Arsenal, Declan Rice, everyone's like, it's all it is. It's
To be
like when you
fair-
play for the big clubs, you just get that bit more respect for some reason.
The only caveat to Bowen is that when he played for England, he wasn't that good. He didn't really take his chance, and so that's why.
Okay, so can we
That's why from an England
can we do it like this then, right? Because he's the one that maybe we're saying he well deserves to be in there, but he seems like he's on the outskirts. Bowen or Cole Palmer?
No, wait. This is how we're doing it. We've done number one.
Can we rule someone out?
Saka's number one. Who the fuck is number two?
Out of those players,
Yeah.
Can you list him again, please? Could you list one more time? Just one more time,
Grealish,
one more time.
Foden.
You fucking
Grealish, Foden, Rashford, Sancho, Bowen.
Grealish, Foden,
I'm
Rashford,
having
Saka,
Foden. I'm having Foden.
Sancho, Gordon, Palmer, Sterling.
I'm having Foden. It.
Who's number two?
Gordon for me. I'm being deadly serious. Gordon.
Fair enough.
That's the one I'd have in there.
I'm tempted to say Rashford, you know. I really am tempted. In terms of like what he's capable of doing in big games.
So even
In
after
terms
this season, you still rate him higher than all of those players?
This season's the reason I don't want to do it. But if you like,
Oh my God.
Oh my days.
Crossing
It's
from
just hit the-
Rashford and it's headed off his
The
own
Dogi's
post.
just hit the post.
Dogi, what are you
was he doing
Could have
there?
been an own
So
goal.
many own goals this
And what
season in
a
big
clearance
games as
from
well.
Richarlison, who, by the way, is having a man-of-the-match performance.
Playing
I
very
can't believe how good Richarlison's been in this game.
He has been good.
He has been the complete centre-forward today.
Yeah, he has.
What a fucking performance.
He has.
Can I just say something when we're talking about these wide players for England?
Do you want us to make the list again?
I was, yes.
just one more time, please,
We
Brian.
might start ruling people out.
I was just saying there, Gordon. This is just in terms of how I see this England team playing and what I would like to see. That doesn't mean I put Gordon
Number
above
two,
Cole Palmer.
Gordon. Who's second?
I'm going to go Foden, you know. I will go Foden.
Foden.
I'd go Gordon as well.
Gordon.
Just for the form this year.
How many goals has Foden got this
It's hard, isn't it? It's harder than you think
Here's
it is.
the thing I'm going to say is I'm going to say Gordon, but I do rate Foden's talent higher, but I think Gordon's mentality is special. And the more I watch him, the more I think, you're an Alex Ferguson player. You're a bastard. You're a big game player.
Rashford!
He's just slapped it in.
Marcus Rashford!
Number 2, gentlemen.
He's
The
nicked-
second
he's given
best
us the-
English winger. I fucking told you.
Change the roads.
That's
bouncing
all
around the
him as
defence.
well.
Let's go.
That is
Hold
all
on, can I have
him.
the list again?
You motherfuckers are going to be the end of me.
That goal's all him as well.
It was a
was
very good
coming
finish.
as well. It
But
was
what was
actually
happening with
coming.
your defence there? You could have cleared it out at that
I know
point.
it was coming. The last 5 minutes, we've just been a bit sloppy at the back.
It's gone. It's gone. Me little game's over.
We can't win this.
But to come back to the winger game, to the winger game. Just give us the list one more time, Brian.
No. I tell you what, why don't we do this, right? For me, I don't think Grealish would be in my top 5. Because the form that he's had this season has been so poor in comparison to the other wingers. He should be playing for Man City, one of the best teams in the country right now. And he's looked average this season.
Yeah, I mean, there's a
Other
reason why
players
he's
there
not
are-
playing
yeah,
as much as...
he's had 12 games this
This
season.
is terrible defending.
Yeah,
by the
he
way.
got
It's terrible
Rashford
defending.
did make that goal for himself, but he was helped out.
We've been
It's
calling.
defending. Look at this. What is this? It's just.
Romero's just sauntering back there,
That
isn't
was
he?
almost a penalty as well.
Poro was Poro.
It was poor. It was poor.
The thing with Rashford, the reason come back to me, the thing with Rashford, in terms of like basic abilities, in terms of size, strength, pace, finishing, and ability to beat a man. I know he's not done it this season, but ability to beat a man. Bear in mind how fed up he is.
What about mentality? Because I do think that's an important thing to think about.
It's so hard because as we were saying a minute ago, Jadon Sancho's got a mentality that no one else has ever questioned, and he's leaving on a private jet in January to get away from Ten Hag. So it's hard because
I think that's a valid point. Like
under this manager, I think there's players on this list already. We could put Saka in this team, Foden in this team, and maybe they get fed up under a Ten Hag as well. But in terms of like raw natural abilities, Rashford. He's really, really high on that list, man. He can do things that a lot of those players just can't do. I don't know, in terms of finishing abilities, I know he's had a bad season, but this guy can do fucking spectacular things. He can finish chances.
That was his first goal in 15 appearances at Old Trafford.
But it's this season, though, isn't it? And we're talking
Stick
about...
the knife in.
You're only as good as your last game, really.
that is piss poor, though.
I'll tell you what, one thing we can agree on, it doesn't really mean anything unless we go on and win set, but it's good that we can have this conversation, isn't it, and actually have a debate with 6, 7, 8 players.
It's an embarrassment of riches, isn't it?
I know, yeah.
Yeah, but the sad thing is we're talking about a manager. I know we weren't really talking about what Southgate would do, but it's like with Phil Foden, it's like if you get a proper manager in that England like dressing room, you could see Phil Foden become our best player because people have spoken about him as the best English talent since Rooney. So it's so hard to judge because we're talking about Foden at Manchester
You know why I
City,
won't, though?
one of the best.
Because the best players, they don't drop off the way Rashford does consistently and has consistently from day one. Like, he's had some amazing purple patches, but this isn't only Ten Hag that I've seen him drop off for, to be fair. So, as much as I do rate his talent, the top players, they don't drop off as regularly and as often as he has.
I completely agree with you, and I think his legacy as a player is, as the weeks and the months go on, is getting tarnished.
Yeah,
and
he's
it's
a form player.
It's heartbreaking to watch because 5 years ago we were talking about him coming through, and we were saying he could be anything. He could.
But there's been players who have had great careers, but haven't had the level of pressure on them that Rashford does. I remember Jermaine Defoe, for example, transfer Man United.
Well, it's true.
It's
Rashford's got
Rashford.
so much
poor
space.
touch. Oh.
He's cut back.
He's fucked it, and we've just seen a great.
Do me a
chance.
fucking favour, Mark, because I'm trying to win an argument here.
We've just seen him with acres of space, and he's taken too many touches and he's ruined it. Going back to my point, Jermaine Defoe did not have the pressure on him that Rashford did, but was known that he'd score one, you'd literally bet on him to score first in the next 7 weeks in a row and then you'd know that would tail off, and Jermaine Defoe wouldn't do that like all season, but he would be unstoppable for however many games per. And maybe that's an unfair comparison, but. I just think overall, when I look back at Rashford's career, I'm going to think great player in terms of like ability, but consistency wasn't his thing.
But we're talking about the rest of that list. Who's had a more consistent career than Rashford on that list? Like obviously Foden's had a great career. Saka's doing really good things at Arsenal. Can you say that?
Would you argue Raheem
Consistent
Sterling?
isn't the word that I would use with Rashford.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's been consistent, but I'm saying who on that list over the last 5 years has been more consistent.
But it's difficult for Foden 23, Saka 22 to be consistent.
Only Sterling has had the game time to actually be that.
They're the two that I'm saying I would put above. But in terms of the rest of them,
I think we're all agreeing on Rashford, Foden, and Saka. So far.
Timo. It's Timo time.
Timo time.
Left foot. That's horrible. Do you know what? Can I just fucking say something? And it's not just him. No, it's not just him. Timo, Brennan Johnson, and Oliver Skipp have been passengers in this game. They've offered nothing in this game. And I've been on Brennan Johnson for weeks now. He needs to do more. We spent 50 million on this guy. What is he doing? Honestly, I'm getting annoyed with him. Like, I'm actually getting annoyed with him. And as soon as all our players are back, he needs to eat bench. Just sit on the bench, man.
But would you put Werner high in that list if we would give him an English passport? Just say the list one more time, but in English.
Can we just agree? This is gone. It was a good idea before the show. It's gone. But thanks for participating at home. Do get your comments in. Let us know who your best 3 English wingers are, and hopefully the lads can let me know, because it was nice while it.
Brennan Johnson, 50 million quid. That's one that's not really being spoken about much since the
He's
summer.
got a couple assists. He got assists in the last game, but he's just not. He's not doing nothing. Like, tell me one thing in this game he's done.
He's really your Sean.
One thing. He hasn't done any. Look at him now. He's just. I don't know what he does.
This is the Anthony factor with Premier League wingers nowadays. If you're a Premier League winger and you're having a tough season, don't worry about it because Anthony makes you look so fucking good.
Do you know what, right? Do you know how when I used to work offshore, I'd always want to go near the lad who was really bad, who everyone thought was shit, because he'd make me look great. And I'd call him my shit deflector. And Anthony has now been that guy who...
The Premier League shit deflector.
Yeah, whatever's happening, mate, it could be worse. Do you know what I mean?
Fucking hate Man United, man.
Yeah.
They always in these kind of games start playing, and then every other week they're just dog shit.
Yeah, you really want to punch Ten Hag. Say it. Go on.
No,
say it.
Why are they performing for him? I thought they weren't performing for him. What's going on?
Because they've realised now.
Why
They've realised no
what's going
matter
on?
what happens, we can down tools, but he ain't going to get sacked this season. The dust's going to settle. Ratcliffe's going to come in, so they're thinking, well, we've got a European tournament at least to play for. Why don't we?
I think
watched them a
I
couple
think this
weeks
is just Spurs midfield just being poor here. Like I think Richarlison's having a hell of a game and is doing there's times where you want your centre forward to put himself about, to link play up, to back in defenders. Richarlison's doing everything he can. He's just not getting enough service.
We knew that the next 6 weeks were going to be very tough.
Look at the
Spurs,
state of that.
with the amount of players that you've got out.
No, but we've just got some
injuries.
back.
Yeah, but you've got you're
going to score now anyway. It's a corner.
You've got your centre mids at AFCON. You've got your best player at the Asian Cup. You're missing some good players.
That's why Pep's a genius, because he doesn't buy many of these African players or Asian players. No disrespect to players from that country. But he doesn't buy them because he knows they're not going to lose.
We're not saying Pep's racist, just to be absolutely
But it's tactical, isn't it? You know you're not going to lose players during the season. Man City, out of all the top 4 or 5...
Oh!
Go on.
Oh, off the bar from Romero.
Off the ball. That was a banging header.
We needed...
what is that?
Get Højbjerg out of my club, man.
Porro with the ball in.
No, go on. Control it. Finish.
Hit it.
I'm gutted that that header stopped that conversation because we were just getting into the territory of Pep Guardiola is a tactical racing.
Yeah. No, we weren't. No, we weren't. I'm just saying. I think he does. I do think managers are taking those things into account though when they're signing players, unless they're like super exceptional and you need them. It's like if you're going to lose them for a month of a season.
It's true. I remember Chelsea back in the day. Like we used to lose Drogba, John Obi Mikel, Essien. Like we were hampered.
Your training ground was empty.
Every time the African Cup of Nations came round, it was ridiculous.
But it's not just players who go to the AFCON and players who go to the Asia Cup. I've said this about Maddison before. Like Maddison, when he was fit, was on track to be player of the season. But this is why other clubs didn't go in for him, because he does miss these games every season.
Yeah, but that's just chance, really, isn't it? Like when you play for a certain nation, you know you're not going to be there for a month.
But Maddison's track record is almost it's not chance.
Yeah, but
when he does it every single season, he might as well be going to the AFCON. He might as well go watch it with his dodgy ankle.
You were singing the praises of Sarri, saying how good he was.
So good.
Basuma, how good he was.
No, they're important.
You know what I
players
mean?
for us.
Like, they were huge.
They're important players for us. 100. Look,
so you're not regretting the signings?
No, of course I'm not. But I was just making a joke. But Skip and Højbjerg, they can't lace their socks. Like they're not the same player. They're not like for like. And we are going to miss them. But still, Man United have not been good this season. Mm-hmm. They're poor. But in this game, they just look, to me, more dangerous.
So why is it, do you think, that Man United are turning up in these bigger games? Because I've got no doubt, right? I don't know who Man United have got next. But let's say, for example, they had Burnley next or someone like that, right? I have no confidence that if they go and turn Spurs over today, they then go on a run and get a win against Burnley. It's very inconsistent. It's Chelsea-esque. Just a lot
and they don't draw a game either, do they? They never get any draws.
No.
They either win...
How many draws are they on this season?
I think Ten Hag's had like 9 draws in his entire Man United career.
Yeah.
Really? The thing, the lineup does change an awful lot. There's players who coming in. I mean, Varane's back in the defence today. You know, we've seen Maguire play for long periods in there. The midfield changed. I do think Maino, by the way, like for me, he's my favourite player in that Manchester United 11. I think he's a really little silky midfielder. I like the way he plays football. But it's a weird one with Man United, because looking at every single player in that starting 11, there's not one of them that you go, he's going to perform for the rest of the season. There's just not one. There's not one where you can go, he can reliably perform. If there's one in that 11 right now, this sounds insane, it's Johnny Evans.
No,
genuinely Johnny Evans. He's the most consistent performer in that team.
If you're barring injury, I would hang my hat on Luke Shaw out of anyone in Man United's team to consistently perform. But I get what you're saying, because we shouldn't be talking about Man United, the biggest club in England, and then me having to think, who is that player? It should be this player, that player, this player, that player. And it literally is like...
And you and I are basically going, the left-back's kind of consistent, but then so's that 35-year-old Irish centre-back that they got rid of 10 years ago. So which one's the best performer? Do you know? It's a sad state of affairs. But it's a sad use of talent. It's a sad use of talent. We're not neutrals, but neutrals should be looking at some of those players in that Man United team and going, they're the ones I look forward to. Like we were having the conversation about De Bruyne earlier, and who's the best Premier League midfielder of all time? Who's one of the best Premier League players of all time? The thing with De Bruyne for me, and what I love about him so much, as a fan of a team who competes with De Bruyne's team each season for the last couple of years, he's one of those players that I turn on Match of the Day, I want to watch him.
Yeah,
I turn on Match of the Day, I want to see what De Bruyne has done. I want to see the goal. I want to see the assist. I want to see where he's played the passes from. You can't really say that about many Man United players. You kind of say it about Rashford. Bruno Fernandes is like, in terms of his numbers, he's one of the most prolific.
So overrated.
But he's one of the most prolific attacking midfielders in the Premier League the last 5 years. There is not one player who doesn't support there's not one fan who doesn't support Man United who ever wants to watch Bruno Fernandes play football.
I would want to watch him get snapped.
Exactly. Yeah. Mate, MMA, I'd watch Bruno Fernandes do that every day of the week.
Can I just quickly say the stats? Have you seen the stats on this half time?
It's very interesting.
Man United 37% possession, Spurs 63, 6 shots, Spurs 10, 2 on target, Spurs 4, 174 passes, Man United, 292 Spurs. They are a dead side, and we're letting them do this.
By the way, all of this with so many players out for Spurs right now, so I mean, credit to them. But Man United put the ball in the net.
100%.
I mean, there's still 45 minutes left to play. Before we go on to the next half, we've got to do the FFP chat, because that's been rumbling on social media lately. Because obviously when Newcastle were bought out by the Saudis, the fans were celebrating. Not only because we'd gotten rid of Mike Ashley, who'd spent no money for the last 20 fucking years, but also for the promised land, you know? Here's what happened to Chelsea. Here's what happened to Man City. The oil money's here, boys. We're going to be getting Mbappe. Fast forward 2 years later, and our CEO does an interview saying, well, we are going to have to sell now if we want to buy a Solanke, for example. Like, we're really in a position now where FFP is restricting our spending. And I think that was a reality check for a lot of Newcastle fans, but also the general Premier League of, this isn't what we thought it was going to be. They're not, and I'm not even saying I want us to go and buy an Mbappe and become the next Manchester City. I want a competitive league. Ironically, City are closing in on 5 titles in the last 6 years? I think the horse has bolted. But it really hit home of, the rules have changed, and they've changed for us, and they've changed for everyone else who could be bought. It's not just about Newcastle. It's, let's say, if Spurs or lower teams, like what happened with Leicester City back in the day, or Blackburn back in the day. All that football is about is, if you haven't got the big club status, you're hoping for a new owner to come and change your fortunes. And now what we're saying is, that ain't going to work anymore. And it's clear as day, because Newcastle have now at a situation where we can't just do that. We've got a handful of really good players, and a vast majority of Steve Bruce players are still there, and half of the squad's injured. We are crying out for replacements. We started 2 academy players against Man City, for Christ's sake, and yet we're now unable to go and do anything. We're even struggling to loan Phillips from Man City because we're haggling over the fee. So for me, it's clear as day that FFP is not there for fairness. Like, fairness would be if everyone in the league could spend an equal amount on their squad. So whatever the biggest value team is in the league, well, you spent X amount of money, well, then everyone can spend that then. And if people can't do that, then that's fair enough, but that should be the rules. We should all be allowed to spend the same amount of money if we want, and we can't. So what do we make of the situation, lads?
I think it's an interesting state of affairs when you look at it and you see that smaller clubs in the Premier League are being punished more than the bigger clubs. So you look at the way that Man City can still spend as opposed to the way that Newcastle can spend, and it's still unfair even when you look at it from that perspective.
Just to be clear, can we explain why that is? Just because some people might not understand. The rule is you can, I think, lose about £105 million as a club over the last 3 years. And that's the rules. But it's all dependent on the money that is brought in from sponsorships, from the fans, from player sales and stuff like that. And if you can't prove that your club and not an owner pumping money into the club did that, then you're not able to then carry on, even though this has been going on for decades.
I think you've almost got to think of it on both sides. Like, do you want to have clubs that go out of business because they're run in a mismanaged and poor way? And that's the reason why FFP was brought in. Like, you look at the state of Reading at the moment, they're a football club that are in real trouble, a former Premier League team, now that are right, in the Championship and struggling. And you don't want that to happen again. So you can understand why FFP was brought in, because you want to protect clubs so that they're not ripped away from fans. We don't have another Bury situation in other football clubs, right? But then you can understand it from a Newcastle fan perspective, and you go, right, Man City and Chelsea have had these illustrious, phoenix rises from nothing, and that they've bought all of these amazing players and been able to basically build clubs from scratch. That's never going to happen again. That will never happen again because of the way that the football rule set is being brought in now. But
with Chelsea, for example, they had money pumped into them. And the idea that Chelsea would then, in any way suffer when all Abramovich has done is now left them in the best position possible, where in the last year they've been able to spend over $1 billion and not have a problem because their entire club has so much value added to it.
Yeah.
So to compare that to a Reading is absolute insanity. It's like it's a blanket rule that serves the powerful only. To stop another Blackburn, another Leicester, another Man City, another Chelsea, all of these clubs that have happened before.
The caveat that I will say back to that, though, is that Chelsea, the reason why we have been able to spend so much is because we've sold a lot of players, and because we have
Why did you have those players?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, we had the players.
End of story.
We had the players, but then also we have more commercial income than you. We had
Why
more.
do you have that? Because of all the money that's been spent on the players over years to win all these trophies, to then increase the value of the club. Like, that's exactly why.
It's chicken and egg. You're 100% right. It's chicken and egg. I think that the problem is you have to look at the situation and go. There's one part where I agree with you, Josh. Where I go, Chelsea shouldn't have ever been allowed to do that. But you can't say we're not going to do rules and regulations against Newcastle because we didn't do it against Chelsea. Yeah, because it's like going, well, you didn't stop that house from burning down, so why are you stopping this one from burning down? It's like, I think what you need to do, and as football fans, when we look at this stuff, you have to get rid of your club allegiances, look at the actual problem with spending in the Premier League. And for me, it's twofold. One, it's what you said, don't let another Bury happen. Don't let small clubs get destroyed by reckless owners who shackle them with debt that they're never going to overcome. But the other problem, we mentioned it earlier, City are probably going to win their, 6 in 7 titles?
5th out of 6, yeah.
And it's just going to happen again. And this is while financial fair play is in place. This
the
is
only reason this is the problem that's been there from day one. Manchester United were Manchester City. Man United could not be competed with until clubs had money pumped into them. This is not a new problem. We're just having the same problem 20 years later.
But we haven't tackled it. This is the problem. And whatever they're doing and whatever's happening at the moment, it's not working. Because it's like, as a Newcastle fan, you're sat there going, fuck me, I'm having to watch Sean Longstaff run around on a pitch because we can't even loan Calvin Phillips. It's like, yeah, but none of us as neutrals are going, someone needs to fucking slow Newcastle down. None of us care about that.
I think there's a lot of people who are fearful of what Newcastle could become if it was completely no rules. And I'm not
If it was Manchester City buying Robinho all over again.
I'm not suggesting that we do that, but when Manchester City are in 5 titles out of 6 years, and the one title they lost where they were 2 points behind or whatever, that is not a competitive league. The idea that Newcastle, unfortunately, the system that we have because of the way it's been is the only way to kill off some of the other sharks is to introduce more sharks and just let it go that way, because the horse is bolted. The idea of putting rules and regulations in at this point, when we've got a one-team league, which is competitive to a degree, but the inevitability of City winning titles is a joke.
So it sounds like we've almost got two proposals. Your proposal, which is almost like, right, if you've got these oil state-run clubs that have run away with things and no one can catch them,
too late.
The best thing to do is to just let other oil state-run clubs run with them and catch them.
No, that I would definitely put my own words on this. So I think that there needs to still be rules and regulations, but to come to a point where Newcastle have spent 400, people are saying, some of the stupid arguments I've been getting online, you spent 400 million. Yes. We spent 400 million after spending nothing for decades. So we still have a squad that was battling relegation that is 75% of our squad. So you put rules and regulations on it so that we can't even buy a Solanke or a Phillips or, reasonable signings that you should be able to make.
You could buy those players if you sold some of your higher performing players.
Thank you. So this is the insanity of it, is we've only just started growing as a club and we're already being told, and this is the beauty of how it's to protect the big clubs. What you've just said. Sell Isak, sell Bruno Guimaraes. Who do we sell them to? the big clubs.
Yeah.
So it keeps them strong. Thank you very much. That's the problem with it. Newcastle should not be in a position where we have to sell to who would buy them? Manchester City and all of these huge clubs in the world. So
Sell them abroad.
But, come
They
on,
can't afford
Barcelona, Real Madrid can't buy.
They can't.
They
afford
can't.
it.
They
Real
can't
Madrid-
afford
Real
the
Madrid
wages.
can.
No. But let's have
Yeah,
a counter to
true,
this
yeah.
though. All the big clubs are selling clubs now. Man City have just sold their best up and coming prospect in Cole
That is
Palmer.
not the same thing. That is one tiny little speck in a galaxy of stars that they have. So much so that no one's even pointing the finger at Pep Guardiola because he was some little kid out of an academy. What you're talking about is selling our best Isak or best midfielder in Guimaraes.
true.
It's absolutely outrageous that is being put to us as a reasonable thing when we have owners who could fund Newcastle for the next 1,000 years, and we're talking about whether or not we could one day go out of business. Don't make me laugh.
Whether this
Bullshit.
was your expectation or not, I think it was the expectation of many that Newcastle were going to become the Man City on steroids. They were going to become do you think that's not that you would expect it, but a lot of people did because we looked at the wealth charts. We looked at the wealth charts, and it was what your owners were 3 times wealthier than Man City's or something like that, right? Do you think that ship has now sailed? Do you think we're looking
Absolutely
at this and going, oh, no, actually, it's just going to be the way that, say, for example, when we look, sometimes we're surprised when we look at the wealth of owners. We go, cool, Villa's owners have got a lot
Do
of
you
money.
really
and
think Manchester City have got 17 million followers on Twitter and they're that big? Of course not, man. Everything about that club has been inflated from day one, and they've cheated the system fantastically well. And their lawyers are so good that we'll probably never get these 150 charges. And this isn't about me hating Man City. It's about fairness. Fair play is not what we fucking got here. And I don't know if there's an easy one-size-fits-all answer to it. But the first thing I thought of was, whatever the roundabout club value that people have spent on their players, Manchester United have spent $1 billion, City have spent $1 billion. Let's look at how much Liverpool have spent. Whatever the cap is of player value in a squad, City, Chelsea are on $1 billion. That should be the limit that anyone can spend so that we all have a level playing field, that no one can go beyond whatever that is and you adjust it to inflation. So therefore, we're all the same.
Can I ask a question as someone who's not good with numbers? Are they basically saying that the FFP is there to protect yourself from spending more money than you have and then putting
Yes.
your okay, so, right, let's say, for example, if these owners have got so much wealth, could you not still implement FFP in a way that the smaller clubs are protected by that logic? But say, for example, Newcastle want to go and spend $40 million on a player, the league then says to them, or whoever runs FFP says to them, that's fine, you can put $40 million down for him, but you've then got to put $40 million aside in a I don't know, bank account or something there, so that we know that you've got enough to bail yourself out of that money. You're almost lending yourself money.
There's a million solutions to this. Having a one-size-fits-all for small, tiny clubs that are really going to struggle potentially down the road, and the way that Blackburn did or whatever, that you've got to have different rules for different issues. What this does, essentially, is if we imagine that there's a mini league in the top 6, big 6, financially, it means that it's very hard for them to drop out. Yes, these clubs might drop out a little bit of the top 6 in terms of their football, but roughly, they're always going to be able to outspend everyone around them, which then makes it impossible. Let's say the guy who was going to buy Manchester United, the Sheikh, let's say he goes and buys a really small club. Why would he now? Because he can't have fun with it. And these are billionaire toys, and they've been that way for years,
No,
right?
but doesn't this also mean that they just need to come up with creative ways to raise funds as well through sponsorships and different...
Newcastle have got the best of the best of the best right now. We're getting as creative as we can, and it's come down to what we're going to do. Because
No, but even like the stadium and things like that. And
what that does is it moves it as a snail's pace, and that's exactly what is wanted. They don't want us going through the gears. And I understand that this might sound like sour grapes, but I'll be honest, I want to fucking see my team win a trophy once in my bastard life. And I had a little bit of a hope that at least we might be certain to see something happen. And now I'm looking at it going, we can't even buy Solanke. I want a fair league. I want a competitive league. I don't want a Man City situation. I want entertaining football. As much as it would be nice to win Newcastle 6 titles in a row, it would feel soulless at that point. I want competitive.
I think our league is still more competitive than most of the leagues in Europe, though. It's more competitive than France, Germany.
I don't know, man.
Bro,
what do you mean?
Not with City.
This is
Sorry. How many leagues have PSG won in a row? in the last few
listen,
years.
If that's the yardstick, if that's the
how many have
yardstick,
Bayern Munich won?
Bro, here's
La
the
Liga's
problem. Here's
probably the
problem.
only one that's-
Manchester City can go out there and they can buy a De Bruyne, they can buy a Haaland, they can buy anyone they want. Like that isn't what fairness should be, right? Like they
can't anymore, can they?
No, but the point is they've had such an advantage for so long. They've built up so much value. So now they can sell a Cole Palmer and make absolute profit. Because now the door's shut, City are almost cemented at the top. It's going to be really hard for anyone to ever catch them.
Are you just unfortunate of being the next one in line?
The
though,
ladder's
that
been pulled up
this,
on us.
This falls
Yeah.
on. Like, maybe there'll be 2-3 more clubs within the next half a decade that are feeling exactly the same as you, but it's just such a harsh
But I
pill
don't
to
want
swallow.
that. And even if now I've been saying this for a long time, like it isn't just because Newcastle have been bought now. The only way to beat the shark in the tank is to introduce more sharks in the tank.
Yeah.
But having Man City as the only one with the biggest teeth like that, it makes it impossible for anyone to challenge the.
But
apex predator.
it's not just the biggest teeth. The thing that pisses me off the most with this discussion is, like, we all know they've got 117 charges against them because they're not even announcing what's actually happening. Yeah. Do you really think that Erling Haaland went there for £65 million? No. Do you believe that? It's bollocks. We all know it's bollocks.
Jurgen Klopp perform out of it, and I don't even like this guy, but he's performed out of his skin for fucking 6 years solid. He's got one Premier League title to show for it. Why? Because he's
Timo Werner assist!
First game.
Timo assist! That's what I'm saying. It's
You were
Timo
just saying
time.
you were shitting it.
No, I said he was a passenger. I never said that. I said Brendan Johnson was. Let's not do that. I said Timo's been a passenger in this game.
Who
But
called
he's got in good.
Craig called 2-2, to be fair,
Two-2,
mate.
yeah,
You
I
want
did.
no more goals now, yeah?
No, I want to win 3-2.
You've called a few results right this season.
What can I say, Joey? I watch football, man. That's what I do.
So is this skip with the first
He's
pass?
onside,
Skip
yeah.
with the first pass to Timo. Timo gets it here in the left-hand side. Takes his time, doesn't he? Holds on to the ball.
Go on, Timo.
Passes
Yeah.
beautiful pass. And then Bentancur back.
What a finish.
I'll tell you what,
how many
though,
games
who
has he
is
been
it?
back?
Johnny Evans there.
Yeah.
That's a
He's been back.
That's poor.
There's a
Back
poor
three.
bit of hesitancy. You know, he gets stuck in the mud there.
He almost sticks his left leg out. If you watch that again of Johnny Evans,
Go
he
on,
sticks
Timo.
his left leg out to try and make the block and he just goes past him. What there?
Oh, that's bad defending from
It's
Evans.
bad keeping, man.
I know.
What, that goes through a non.
Can I get a Spurs fan's opinion on Werner's debut so far? Because I know there's been two moments where we've sort of thought, oh God. But I think Werner's been lively on that side, hasn't he?
Absolutely.
More than Brennan Johnson today, I think. Werner. I think he has done more than Brennan Johnson.
Just
speechless.
Just
He's
going
that
back to my
happy.
point before, lads.
I will say, by the way, for the conspiracy heads out there, wasn't it interesting? They scored a goal just as we were getting into Manchester City's financial.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Read out that list of wingers again.
It's not easy, I tell you. Jurgen Klopp had to perform out of his skin for the best part of a decade to get one title. And I refuse to believe that if they were on a level playing field financially, that would have been the case. And if the rule that I'm theorising that could help is that if Pep Guardiola had to have a squad value that is the equal to Jurgen Klopp as a maximum, like no one squad can have more than the second squad, for example, so that Newcastle would not be able to outspend Man City or they can't be. You can't have one squad that's out and out like Bayern Munich, the most valuable squad. That would then force a level playing field to some degree, at least. What we've got now, for people going, oh, it's working, bro. They've just sold Cole Palmer just for cash in the bank because they've got an embarrassment of riches. Like, what were we talking about that this is working?
But
They've sold a few others. They've sold Jesus. They've sold Mahrez. They've sold other players.
They've sold them with.
But what Brian's
that's
saying
at the
is,
end of when they've used them up now. They've finished with them.
what
That's
Brian's
fine.
saying is they're only selling them because they were able to buy them in the first place. This is the problem. Is you go, oh God, Jacob's got loads of money. He keeps selling those luxury cars. It's like, yeah, because I fucking nicked him in the first place. It's like, that's what's wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's like the other thing that you have to think about with City as well is we spoke about Cole Palmer a couple of times here. Why have they got Cole Palmer? Why have they got him? And why have they got that academy? Because they've got the best academy in fucking
billions
Europe.
into their club,
Exactly.
man. Newcastle can't even upgrade the fucking training ground.
Exactly.
It's a joke, man.
This is why it's so hard to judge City, is because it's like, it's not just that they're spending money on transfers. They've speak to anyone who knows stuff about Manchester United. They're saying there's nothing coming through the academy because all the kids that we used to get coming through the United academy, they're going to City instead now because of the facility.
And when people are looking at Newcastle and going, you're only saying that because you want Newcastle to win, I'm like, yes, I get what you're saying, but would you not at least rather have another challenger to Man City who can actually compete with them on a financial level? Because right now, it's up to them what the fuck they do. And everyone else is dancing to their tune.
Yeah, but let's be real though. Are like Burnley fans, Nottingham Forest, are they even speaking about this? Though, are they?
This is definitely a Newcastle problem right now. But the point is it's a future problem for any club that gets bought out by a very rich person who then wants to see their club have that moment where you're like, now it's our turn. Think again, bro. It ain't Spurs' turn. Do you know what?
As long as Arsenal never win it again, I'm fine.
But
City can win it every single year.
This is why I love Pep so much, man.
But the top 6 can't be relegated from that group now. They are set in stone, and it's going to be incredibly hard.
Let's get the Super League going then.
Chelsea are doing their best.
So why don't we just get the Super League going then?
But what we actually want,
that's the only way we disrupt it.
Let's be honest, looking at the top 6 right now, what we actually want is more Villas. That's what we actually want. What Villa have actually done is what we want.
They had a new owner.
They had a new owner, but he's not exactly he's not flooded them with money.
Villa have done it in the FFP era. Villa are right up there. They're the exception to your rule. They're proving that this
smart technical director. Monchi's come in and it's smart. Like, don't get me wrong, they're not cheap deals. They spent a lot of money on DRB.
They're proving nothing. They're doing exactly what Newcastle did last season. And when it all catches up with them and they need more money to deal with more fixtures, they're going to have the exact same problems Newcastle did. And all of a sudden, what you're doing, you're sitting there.
Success doesn't put you there. Otherwise, Leicester would still be a Premier League team, at least, at minimum. Success doesn't put you there.
But Leicester doesn't happen without a new owner. All of these fairy tale stories that we've witnessed are obsolete, and now it's dominance from Man United and Man City. Well, Man United for a long time, then Man City took over. Obviously, Chelsea were in there. It's just money that they
Villa is spending £30 million more a year on wages than Newcastle are.
There you go.
Crazy. But can I say something though? It's obvious from watching the Premier League this season that our league is the most competitive league. Though I know Man City have won it 3 times in a row, but looking at the league, we got potentially 5 teams right now in a title, 4 or 5 teams in a title race at this point.
Craig, here's the point.
Someone new always seems to win Serie A. I'd argue that might.
Let's think about this.
Dead league, though. But yeah,
the last 6 years of Premier League football is factually the least competitive in terms of who is winning the title that it has ever been in its history. So,
what about this season though? I'm just saying, like, even as a product, when we watch the Premier League, right, in this league, we always say, there's so many good players at the smaller teams now. They can take points off of the big teams. We don't really say that about a lot of the leagues.
They can, but when all's said and done, who do you think are going to run away with the league?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Let me
say it on the show a few times. It's going to be Man City again.
Let me ask you one final question.
Looking at it, this is literally like, oh well, the other teams are taking points off each other, so it is competitive. Like, I get you. You're totally right. But at the top, it's the same shit season in, season out. Yeah. And I'm not expecting Newcastle to win a Premier League, but you know when it gets to a point where we get bought out and we can't even buy Solanke 2 years later, you're thinking, oh, but you've got to sell Bruno and Isak and say, we've only just got good players. Now you want to take them off us? This is a fucking disgrace.
Let me ask you this: who wins the Premier League next season? Salah's going to leave Liverpool in the summer. Probably. It's going to be City.
Yeah,
we all know it's going to be City.
There you go.
Because De Bruyne will be fit.
But one day, I'm showing you lot, because you lot keep pointing out to money, which it is money. I'm not denying that. But when Pep leaves, you're going to see Man City won't just be winning leagues still.
Why is Pep there? Money.
Of course, but what I'm saying is, when he leaves, do you think they will still just dominate in the same way? They won't. They won't.
But the point is that the possibility of them dominating is far more because everything is in their favour. And I'm not even saying that FFP is not a good idea in theory. I'm saying in reality, it's not being applied the right way. And what we need is a much fairer system where, if you are bought out, you have, like, for example, the fella on TalkSport, what's his name? The posh cunt.
Simon Jordan.
He said, look, you should have a grace period where...
We knew it straight away.
Well, the one who talks boxing but doesn't know a great deal about it. No offence, but you know, you can have a couple of years of investing, set your club up like City did to a lesser extent, not like what they did was basically build fucking an outrageous dynasty. I'm just saying, make us competitive, and then we abide by whatever rules that we need to. I think even that would be fair. But to just get an influx of cash and not be able to use it, it's like, well, what the fuck is the point then? What have I been hoping to get rid of Mike Ashley for this whole fucking time? We're back, yeah?
Things are still better though. But can I say something?
Marginally.
Marginally, come on, they're marginally. They were.
In terms of Newcastle,
our final Mike Ashley season, we finished 12th. We're 10th in the league right now.
But you just
but
played
you've
Champions
signed-
League.
yeah,
you've got
signed
great players.
unbelievable players.
You've got a good manager.
Before the promise of riches, you would have took anyone, including Simon Jordan, who you just spoke about. You would have took anyone over Mike Ashley.
No, I agree. Mike Ashley was the worst owner ever. But when you've been starved, but the idea is like, oh, you can't. You have to pace yourselves, not spend a load. We haven't spent any money for 20 fucking years, and yet we get new owners. And you've run out of money to spend.
No, I can
have we
imagine
really?
that's
Because
frustrating.
apparently we've got fucking trillions.
I can imagine that's frustrating. It's like if we got rid of Daniel Levy, which I've been screaming for, and then we got some oligarch owners and we couldn't spend
We were
money. I'd be
dancing
like,
in the streets.
You'd be able to.
Sam
way more
Fender
money than
was
it.
singing away.
yeah,
in
we
fucking,
would.
I'll tell you
it was
what's
a
more
moment.
frustrating when you've got a load of money and you just spend it fucking awfully.
Can I ask something though? See, in terms of financial fair play, what actually changed the last year in it? Because it's been around. Haven't they been introducing new things like this? This whole thing.
They've been doing this,
It's been
but
for a
it's
while,
never
for 3 years.
it's never been tested because all of the clubs who spend the most money had already put themselves in a situation like Chelsea did, where they had a huge amount of talent that they could then sell to then reinvest the money on players. The problem is going to come when Chelsea realise, as they are realising now, in my opinion, that a lot of that money's been spent on crap players. Then it's where do we get the next load of money from?
I think the problem is that you can't look at football clubs from a fan perspective anymore, and you've got to think of them as businesses.
Well, you know
And
what
so
you can do
if-
with every business?
Well, that's
You can
what you
invest
know.
in your own business. The fact that we're in a situation where people can buy a business and have a limit of what they can invest in alone is anti-competitive.
So what you're saying though is, and the reason why FFP was brought in was that if it does go tits up, if for whatever reason the people that are investing in Newcastle Football Club decide that they don't want to continue investing in football and they pull all the money out and you're riddled with debt and you've got this massive wage bill and all of these huge players, that is a serious problem for your football club. And I'll tell you this from a person that's had to experience this firsthand. There was a period of time, and I remember sitting around this table and a lot of fans were laughing at us, where Chelsea could have gone under as a football club. And that shouldn't exist.
That's rubbish, though. Like in reality, though, like as much as that was mentioned as a possibility, that you have the most richest club in London. Even the way your stadium is located, the amount of money you were coming in from sponsorships, the amount of money your players were worth. Like it was never going to happen.
We had billions of debt. We had £1 billion pounds of debt.
But where is that debt now?
Well, it was bought out by the people that had bought the club.
Exactly, because the club was now worth so much money. Why? Because it had an oil investment in it for so long. When we've been bought out for 300 million, there is no way in the however many decades into the future that this club is sold from the Saudis, that it is worth what it was then. Like, you're only going to be in a better position. You're only going to be better off. Like, Chelsea are infinitely in a stronger position now than when he picked you guys up. And what is happening to Newcastle now is they're saying, you're not allowed to have that.
Yeah, you're not doing that.
And I'm not even asking to win Champions League. I just want a fucking FA Cup, man.
The clues were there. Like it was dating back. Like, look how hard it was for that. The takeover you had should have happened 6-8 months before it actually
They didn't
happened.
even want to let us have the takeover.
That's what I'm saying.
And then they went, give it them because it actually doesn't make that much of a fucking difference anyway.
Well, what was going on? I'm sure if we correlated now the periods of time that certain FFP rules were brought in as well, I'm sure a few dates would match up in terms of
They did
within
that.
that space
No, they
of
did
6-8 months. Right. Okay, let's stall this. Let's get that pass through. Let's get
No,
this through.
I remember it happening. I was literally paying attention at the time, saying that's going to fuck us. But to then see it happening, I'm just in a state of like, you bastards. Do you know what I mean? And now whenever anything happens in the league, I'm just bitter.
Your injury crisis, I keep going on about it, has made all this way more evident though. Like it was always happening, but it's just come to the surface a lot quicker than probably the league and the FFP guys were realising because of this injury crisis, because of it now being like, so the simple view, the simple look at it would be like, oh, got an injury crisis. Don't worry, we're the richest club in the world by a country mile. That's all right. And it's like...
It's when people are throwing this in my face and I'm like, look at our bench. I don't recognise any player on my bench, and Kevin De Bruyne just came off the bench for Man City. Who are the richest club in the world? We are. Well, it doesn't matter because we're not allowed to spend any of the
But
money.
even with Chelsea at the moment, like obviously we have got sellable assets and that's a big thing, but like Chelsea at the moment, I'm guilty of this as a fan and I should know better, but it's just the way I've been conditioned over years. It's like, Lavia's out for half the season. Should we go sign another midfielder? You know what I mean? And we probably don't realise what a luxury that is to be able to even have a mindset like that at times. And we are guilty of it. Like, as Chelsea fans, we do that. We think, should we sign another midfielder? Should we recall one of those wonder kids we've got on loan and things like that? And then you put yourself in that situation and you do think, oh, yeah. It's
but Joey, we're also selling some of our best youth products, players that we were desperate to have in the team, because that's the way that the FFP works.
We are, but I'm just saying.
We didn't. That wasn't because of our investment.
That shouldn't have to happen.
That wasn't because of Roman Abramovich.
You should not ever have to sell your young players to make some bullshit FFP rule work for you. Your young players should always be you should be able to keep them for as long as fucking possible until you're not happy with them.
You're right.
That is a disgrace. And Newcastle are now going to have to look at it.
When you say it wasn't because of Roman Abramovich, though, we weren't producing the best quality youth players before 2004. I mean,
what did he do directly to get that academy to be what it is today?
We moved our training ground.
Get him off.
Moved us to Cobham.
You make a club successful, young players.
The amount of Chelsea youngsters that look class is outrageous. You've got one of the best academies.
The work of Neil Bath is there. That's been the biggest impact of Chelsea Football Club.
Surely it's not a coincidence that all that money came into Chelsea, and now, like, even the fact of Chelsea winning the Champions Leagues and all that make you a more attractive proposition for young players. To say that, like, that has definitely had an impact, lads. Come on.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like part of the debate we're having this over was over an ex-Chelsea academy product anyway in Solanke. You know what I mean? So I do think that you can see very much so from around 09, 10. 5 years or so, 6 years after Roman Abramovich came, you could litter the Premier League of players right now that came through that Chelsea academy. There's so many good ones that came through that Chelsea academy. I think you can see a massive uplift.
Mate, we've just spent 30 million on Livramento. We've got Lewis Hall on fucking loan.
Yeah.
I don't think, and I might be wrong on this, but I don't think that infrastructure is accounted for in FFP.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. Every penny that your club, to my knowledge, that I've been told when I've done my research, is all down to what the club is spending and what the club is bringing in. So everything has to balance over the... It's not just about transfers. It's about what your club is making a loss on generally overall. And I don't know. I just think it's only right if you buy any company, you should have the right to invest to some degree. And Man United are through.
Oh no,
Scott McTominay just puts it wide.
So do you think that's it now, or do you think that you sort of weather the storm, and do you think there is a time in 2 seasons or so when Newcastle are, by whatever way they've managed to do it, able to then go out and be signing 60, 70 million pound players without at the same time having to lose some of your best names?
We will never ever be able to sign the players that people once thought we were going to, ever. It is going to take a long, because what else they've brought in is that your sponsorship deals have to align with what other teams around you are getting. So even that, do you know how Man City had those dodgy sponsorship deals and that's only what we know of. Do you know when they inflated the numbers? No one was wanting to sponsor Man City back in the day as this great club that compared to Manchester United.
So that's Thomas Cook.
But the point is,
they went under.
The point I'm making is in terms of global relevance, the Man City name was not that of a Manchester United or even a Chelsea. However, they were getting sponsorship deals on the level, if not more than, and it didn't matter.
Just to clarify, infrastructure, community investment, and youth products not included in FFP.
Well, what I will say...
When you say not included in FFP, though, the argument we were making is that the ownership enhances them.
The ownership are allowed to invest in all of those things I just mentioned. So infrastructure, community support, youth football, without impacting FFP.
Well, no, but I'm just saying the ownership enhances our chances of having better quality.
This doesn't make sense because Newcastle have specifically been saying how hard it is to balance the books because they're also trying to spend money behind the scenes as well. And if that was the case, why are they making a big song and dance about how hard it is to soup the training ground up and spend money?
I mean, it might be a good PR move. If that's the case, if you don't want to actually invest in that and you just want to invest in the first team, then that would be a very good thing to say.
Well, regardless, I think when it comes down to it, whether the training ground makes a difference or not, what we're talking about is footballers here. And that's what we're really on about, because footballers win matches. And Pep Guardiola, as great as he is, without Erling Haaland, without Kevin De Bruyne, and many of these other players, is not the same person. He's only as good as his tools.
And we're talking about the academies being able to give you the stability from selling players on as well. Why are Southampton playing second division football now then? Look at the players they've sold through their academy and not through their academy.
To say that's an answer is a nonsense for me. Like to rely solely on academy like all the time. It's not fair. But look,
do something.
I'm not expecting Newcastle to be the next Man City, and I'm not wanting that for football. I don't think it's a fair thing.
Stinks.
Do you think you'll see Newcastle win a league title in your lifetime?
Nah.
Really? Do you not think so?
Have you not heard what we're saying? We can't afford Solanke, mate. We're the richest club in the world,
But you're
and we can't afford Solanke.
But you're still
I don't
very
think
early.
Solanke does guarantee the league title, actually.
But you're still very early. I think what needs to happen for Newcastle to succeed, whilst complying with all this FFP bollocks, and it is bollocks by the way, because it doesn't work. It doesn't do what anyone.
Well, it's clearly working against us right now, though.
But
it's very real.
But you only have to get a few transfers right. Cheaper ones. You only have to get a few £40 million transfers right, and suddenly you're up.
But we're being told that we have to sell before we can buy, mate.
So what if you do? So what if you do?
No,
you get up. No,
but the point is everyone does. But when you've already got £1 billion worth of footballers in your team, that's not the same when you're trying to get to that point. We don't have the value in the squad because we've got a Steve Bruce squad. So in order to get into the conversation, we have to do like everyone else has done, from Blackburn, Leicester to like Chelsea, Man City, all these teams who rose to prominence. You have to spend a fuckload of money. It's the only way to do it. Man United stayed where they were because they kept spending a fuckload of money the entire time. If they hadn't done that, they wouldn't have, even as great as Fergie was. Money is the main factor.
The only other side of it is that you look at Villa and Brighton over the last few years, and you look at the way that they're actually run as a football club. They've been run in a very good way, and they've been able to go above and beyond the FFP calculations, and they've excelled their expectations by running their football club in a fantastic
You've
way.
just said that Villa are spending £30 million a year more than Newcastle are in wages, right? To me, Villa are getting what they've been spending. We've all been crediting how well they've spent their money, but they've spent a good amount of money. And like, as have Newcastle to some degree, but we were battling relegation as with Villa. Like, you can only go so far. And I think using Villa and Brighton as examples of well-run clubs is fair, but using Villa and Brighton as an example of saying FFP works, FFP is not going to allow Brighton and Villa to win a league title ever.
Liverpool. Have Liverpool been able to go above and beyond?
The one anomaly is Liverpool, and why is that? Because they got 150 million for Coutinho and invested it brilliantly well, and they've won one league title. So lightning struck perfectly to make that happen, but it is not sustainable. And as Liverpool are the best proof. So thank you for the example, because Liverpool should have won more league titles, but they couldn't spend as much as Man City. If we had a ruling that Man City's squad value can't eclipse the second, another team, so you can't have the most value in your squad in terms of transfer fees, Liverpool would have had a much better chance because they would have had some restrictions on Man City to keep them within distance. But with Pep having an insane wallet, it just made it impossible for Klopp to compete with them.
Look, I can completely understand why you are so upset about this, because, as you say, Chelsea and Man City are probably the ones that you look at and you say that the financial implications of them have completely changed them as football clubs. So I understand why you are so upset. It's just difficult to have the right solution.
Yeah.
It's difficult to figure out, if you're a football lawmaker, to figure out the right solution, because it's a very complicated issue with people that are actively trying to flout the rules, as we've seen with Man City.
When we say about fairness, people are saying, "Oh, we don't want Newcastle to go and win everything." Absolutely fine. Currently, Man City are doing that. So the current system is not working, in my opinion. I'm not saying that Newcastle being allowed to do everything they want is a solution, but I just think reasonable allowances to spend money that comes into your club is fair without going crazy and buying Mbappe and every other star player in the world. I think that's fair. What do you make of the game so far, Craig?
Højbjerg is doing my absolute head in. I want him out of my club. But other than that, total dominance from Spurs, really. Man United playing on the counter-attack.
11 corners to 6.
They've had some glimpses with Rashford in a couple one-on-one situations, but it's embarrassing. Honestly, like, guys, they're at home playing full-on counter-attacking football against us. At Old Trafford.
They do it away from home, to be fair to them.
but at home is
do
you know what I mean? You want to at least play football at home.
Oh! That looked like it was going on.
That was in, man.
Goes out for a throw-in.
So we all got that from the angle behind the shot, and it really looked like it was bobbling into the net, but it was going
How's
wide.
Ten Hag getting away with this?
But this mad thing about United fans hating Rashford, it's like, take Rashford off that pitch right now, there's nothing.
There's no outlet.
There's nothing.
Mate.
There's no outlet.
Man United fans have nailed themselves to the Ten Hag, and they're just like,
Yeah,
we're going down.
You see them nails are getting looser, mate. I've got a lot of Man United fans as friends, like you were saying the same. The ones that
Sorry
I
to hear
know
that.
are that's right. Don't say sorry.
We live-
Say sorry to them.
surely,
We live in London, mate. There's a lot of Man United fans
Yeah.
around, don't worry.
You can find them. You can find them. But what I'm saying is, a lot of them are getting a lot less.
well, how
but
can you?
they're
How
back
can
in
you?
10 half
Honestly, I'm gonna go home soon. Højbjerg is so bad. You saw that.
I did.
He tripped over himself.
Mate, he's Almiron, isn't he? Yeah, he's just your Almiron.
No, Almiron's better than him. You get more out of Almiron
Do you
than
know
out
who
Højbjerg.
he reminds me of? And this is a hard thing to Coquelin.
Yeah,
He's
I
really
see that.
Coquelin, man.
I see that.
Yeah,
He's
actually,
horrible.
totally see that.
In a
It's just
progressive
tackles.
attacking team, he don't offer anything. He doesn't do anything.
Do you think Neil Warnock does a better job with this Man United side than Ten Hag does?
Bro, I've got a funny story about Neil Warnock.
Maybe.
So I've reached out to people for interviews before, and not many of them have ever said,
Watch this.
"I want cash."
Look at this.
One of them, Floyd Mayweather, he was pipped for asking for more by Neil Warnock. Neil Warnock's agent. In the
Similar type of blokes.
Yeah. Similar interview, I'd imagine.
I was quoted at over £10,000, lads, from a Neil Warnock agent guy. And the best bit about it was when the reply went back to them with like, that's a bit much, like, you know what I mean? The answer was, obviously you don't really want him that much then. And I thought to myself, you're working on commission, you fucking prick, aren't you? You fucking
Obviously, you don't want him that much. No
Mate.
shit,
Yeah, no,
Sherlock.
Know what I
fucking
mean?
don't actually.
10 grand. Is he coming with the King Charles as well?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I love Neil Warnock, so that was a shame. But maybe his agent's just a dick, to be fair to him.
But this is the thing, if you're Jim Ratcliffe sat in the stands watching this, you would be looking at this going, like, someone could do something serious with this team. Like, someone actually could. That Maino, I'm telling you now, man, he's really
No,
talented.
you don't
that
understand,
midfielder.
mate. See, the thing is, it's really hard to manage Manchester United. It's a lot of pressure. And that's the thing. Like, managers, like, you could take Big Ange and it just would be harder for him. And it's all about the pressure of managing Man United. You just don't get it. That's what they say, though, innit? Like, the amount of Man United fans I've heard, like, they just, no, you just keep hiring shit managers, you fucking idiots. That's what's happening.
What do you think Jim Ratcliffe is thinking? Do you think that he, at the moment, is hoping
Can I get me money back?
Yeah.
Who's got the receipt?
Fucking hell. This is shite, though, isn't it? You're at home to Spurs, who are depleted as fuck from injuries, and, like, you're literally just, like, praying to just scrape it.
I don't know. I don't think Ratcliffe can be watching this. Listen, I'm not comparing him to Bowley, but look how quickly Bowley had Tuchel out the door, man. I don't think Ratcliffe can be watching this thinking, yeah, this is fresh, this is exciting, this is what I want to go forward to, and this is the bloke that I want to give the green light to go and spend the money with the track record. Like,
I've said it from the start. I honestly think he's one of the first people that end up leaving. Like, I think they'll sack Ten Hag as soon as they possibly can. I think he'll be gone in the summer because they're going to do a big review of the football club. And you look at it, like, the management of the football club hasn't worked in the last few years. And so they've got rid of all the recruitment guys. They're going to get rid of all the upper management. And then the football manager is the next one to go. They'll bring in a director of football that will work very closely alongside a new manager. That's the way they did. And just to be clear, they did that at Nice, by the way. They had a new manager in, it didn't work. They got a younger, sort of more able manager straight in, and now he's like in his 30s. He's running the club properly. He's a Frenchman. So they've looked at things and they've looked at the culture of the football club and they've changed it pretty quickly. So I could just see that happening with Man United. To be fair.
it's hard, isn't it? Because you're looking at Ten Hag at the minute and you're thinking, right, the thing that's keeping you in a job probably is the instability around the club. But the other thing is how well you performed last season. Then when you look at last season and more context come to fruition, you think, did you perform that well? I mean, look, I would bite your hand off for the League Cup. I'm really hopeful that Chelsea get to the final. So, of course, I've got to credit the League Cup a little bit. But we firstly go on the League Cup. Then we look at last season and we go, okay, last season, what? Chelsea had an off season. Spurs had an off season. Liverpool weren't great last season. And you had two players in Marcus Rashford, like banging forward. Obviously, Casemiro, who came and his levels hadn't slipped yet because he was still, doing things in the Real Madrid way. And then you look at it and you go, actually, you're not that good, are you? So I can see there's every chance of getting rid of Ten
Isn't it
Hag
mad
now.
though? Because he's got the third most points per game out of any other United manager in the Premier League era.
But it's because they've had shit ones. It's because you literally go Fergie and then shite.
Yeah.
And that's the Premier League era.
It's Fergie, Jose, and then Ten Hag.
Yeah, but because who else? We're saying he's better than Moyes and Ollie.
I'm happy for us to keep with Ten Hag for a long time and see how that points per game ratio fares. Because for me, it's been a matter of 18 months. He spent 400 million on a squad that finished sixth the year before he got a hold of them. And I think that it's not an accurate representation of where this squad really is now, and I think he's taking them backwards.
We just compared it to the other Man United managers. What about compared to Jurgen Klopp? In Ten Hag's first 86 games compared to Jurgen Klopp's first 99 games. So Jurgen Klopp's got more here. Ten Hag has more wins, less defeats, less draws, more points per game. And Ten Hag's done it 13 games less than Jurgen Klopp.
Imagine, though, what Jurgen Klopp's side he had inherited from was it Roy Hodgson?
Yeah.
That was
it was also just being able to see the football, though, wasn't it? It's being able to see the football, seeing the direction it's going in. And
Klopp got better every season. This just got worse.
And you could see, I mean... The other thing as well, we were saying, what would Jim Ratcliffe be thinking? The first thing I'd be thinking if I'm Jim Ratcliffe, I'm like, you can take that fucking checkbook out your pocket, mate. You are not spending another penny. Give me your phone, get Apple Wallet out and get that fucking card out there.
Real talk, has a manager ever got so many important transfers wrong? Like where you're like, this is like going to define how you shape your team. Like the amount of bad decisions.
Unbelievable.
Mate, FFP can't change that. Do you know what I mean? If
I think when we've done the hit or miss lists, I don't think that anyone's compares to Man United, and the closest, ironically, would be Chelsea's. But we've had multiple managers doing it, and a lot of it's come from the board. If you're telling me there's no Ten Hag there, but they still want Anthony and every other player from the Dutch league, that's an awful coincidence, isn't it? It's clearly
beautiful pass.
The pass.
Finally, only the 75th minute.
Oh, and he's offside. Oh, it's Timo. It's
Timo offside.
It's never happened before.
It is, Timo. It is. Do you know what? In some sort of nightmare right now, in the future, Newcastle have Timo Werner and Almiron on either side, and we're just offside every single time we play the ball forward. One player we want to talk about a little bit is Kyle Walker, bless him. He's going through a bit right now in his personal life. This is the second baby with his baby mama behind the back of his missus. And not to mention the old pub incident where he was wafting his dick around.
Yeah, but who doesn't?
Who doesn't like that? Do you know what I mean? I just wondered what the table make of this situation of like a footballer who, like, I understand he went away once and, he had a bit of a thing with her, but like the next time she kicks you out, you go straight back to the baby mama, get your end away and give her another kid. And she's on social media going, no, it's another little footballer. So, just to let everyone know, it's fucking Kyle Walker again. He strikes again in at the back post.
I'll say something, right? And I think I'm stealing this point of someone else. Someone said this earlier, but to have that sort of chaos going on in your personal life and to still perform to the level he does, that's one spin we should put on this here and say that's pretty commendable.
I was saying, and it's not just that he's playing well; it's that he's so controlled on the pitch. Yeah. That's the thing that blows my mind about him. If there's one thing you can say about Kyle Walker, the way he plays football, it's like he gets Pep's system. He knows when to stay, when to go, when to invert. He's got so much control. Get him out of the fucking pitch, and he starts getting his cock out everywhere. It's like, where's the control?
Pep never says though, don't get your knob out. He says stay up right back.
He doesn't give him too much to worry about, you know what I mean? Keeps the instructions simple. He's like sort of the English Forrest Gump. Do you know how Forrest did was dumb son of a bitch, but put him on a pitch and he's just fast as out. I think he's like that. He's just like, he's a wild man, but on the pitch must just be where he finds his like...
It's like a wild horse. You've got to stick blinkers on him. Yeah. You've got to stick blinkers on him and you've got to fucking...
Make sure there's no women in the crowd. But no, like, it is mad that a player could have that much shit going on. And he's now looking at like half of his £30 million fortune going to be taken up by the missus by the looks of it. That's going to be costly. May have to sell the medals.
Do you think these sort of things, like, I say back in the day, not even that long ago, like 20 years ago or something, were a lot more common though? Like, we were talking about Dwight York earlier, like loads of different footballers.
Well, your club was rife for it, wasn't it?
Yeah. Why? What happened? I've never heard about any of it. No, but like, these things were quite rife, like back in the day at all clubs. You know what I mean? But now it's just like, this is the thing. As I say, like, So again, like we just said about Neil Warnock here, right? He told a story on a podcast I was listening to when he was saying basically about Adel Taarabt.
Must have been an expensive podcast.
Yeah. When Adel Taarabt was saying, "Oh, I need to go home. My brother's been shot." He said, "My brother's been shot back home, whatever." And he went, "Okay." He went, "Right. Well, listen. More important than football. Take as much time as you want." Taarabt goes home. In the meantime, one of the players goes, "Oh, Adele's left his stuff in the changing rooms or whatever, and he's got his passport in there." So Taaratt's gone. He's clearly not gone anywhere. He's partying for a weekend or something like that. When he comes back, Warnock goes to him. "Oh, how was it, Adele? How's your brother?" He went, "Yeah, touch and go, but he's all right." He went, "Yeah. You left that in the changing room, passing his passport." And you see it like that, and Warnock went, "You better fucking score tomorrow." And that was it, right? And it's the point I'm trying to make here is like, if the footballer's playing well on the pitch, it's so much easier to get away with all of this. It's like the Anthony thing at the moment, which we probably won't go into too much detail about. But one of the things that goes against Anthony and why this has come to light a lot more of the stuff going on in his personal life is because he's shit on the pitch. And it is mad, isn't it, that these things can be going on. And listen, we don't know the full story and whatever, but there's so many stuff that can be going on in footballers' personal lives. But they're playing well on the pitch.
Well, also, I think sometimes they need it. Do you know, like Gaza? You used to hear stories of Gaza, and it's like if he didn't have a drink, he was shit. It's almost like that's what people would say. They'd be like, he'd go, he'd try and clean things up, he'd try and sort his life out a bit, and he stopped. Like he wouldn't be.
It feels like it isn't in the modern era, but maybe they just hide it better.
Yeah, exactly. It's because we know everything now, right? Because of social media, you've seen the pictures where she's gone to another little footballer. I mean, I don't know. There's a part of me. I think if you're Pep, you're going, well, you know what? He's always been like this, and he's always played really well. It's almost like when when your nan gets really old, and the doctor's like, don't quit the fags because stopping the smoking might be what tips you over the edge. But with Kyle Walker, that Pep might be like, you know what, mate? Have a few more kids with weird girls, and just do what you got to do until you retire. Then sort your life out.
Yeah, it's not my problem. Then I'll be gone.
Exactly. Yeah.
And with stories like that, it's easy to see why Neil Warnock costs so much money to get on a podcast.
Yeah.
That is a banger. Yeah. We got that free of charge this time, so we didn't have to pay the money. Thank God.
You'll get invoiced tomorrow, Joey.
Yeah, we got copyright claim. Fucking dick. Not Neil. Just his
that'd be 15 grand for you next time, Brian.
quite of an agent or whatever.
Oh no! My God,
Man United counter attack. He's miscontrolled it.
Nice touch.
Garnacho through. And it's a miss.
It's all right. It's only Rashford.
Touch from Rashid.
Should we have a quick word on Timo Werner there? He's just come off.
We have to give him a little shout out.
Solid
Very
debut,
good
to be
performance.
fair.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well is he wasn't actually pulling up trees. It was Leipzig he'd just come from.
Well,
yeah.
he was benched for most of the game.
Yeah.
I thought if I had to assess it, I thought it was decent. Couple weird shots, but he got in good positions.
Couple
he was
offsides.
Couple offsides.
I think
we got the assist.
Even once the players you've got out come back, even if it's a rotation player, I think he's going to be decent for you until the end of the season.
Yeah.
At the start of next season, who does Timo Werner play for? That is the interesting question. Because I don't think he'll go back to Leipzig.
No, Spurs always just end up signing them after they loan them, don't they? So it'd be Spurs.
What do we make of the Jordan Henderson situation? I mean,
why has he got his knob out too?
Well, to be fair, it would probably be better publicity than what he's been.
Yeah.
He's obviously went and took the money and changed his mind about living in Saudi, despite him really being keen on making a difference over there.
He don't live in Saudi. He don't. No, he lives in Kuwait, is it, or wherever? Bahrain or Kuwait, yeah.
Do the Michael Owen thing.
Loads of them will go over there, but won't actually live there because of the rules on like having a drink and stuff like that.
So what, they fly in for training him?
So a lot of the footballers that are playing in Saudi will live in Bahrain because you can go out for a meal and have a glass of wine and stuff like that.
So that's what I'm saying. Do they fly back and forth then all the time?
Mate, I've seen some of those games. I don't know if they need to train for that. I think Henderson might be like, just text me what time I've got to be there on Sunday, boys. I'll be fit. Don't worry.
Has anyone actually sat and watched it? Because I remember when, I think it was DAZN got the deal with the Saudi League, and I was thinking, do you know what? They're signing these players. Maybe if I'm like bored on a Saturday, I've still never watched one of their games.
You see clips, and it's crazy because obviously there's these mega stars there who, Ronaldo's playing out there still, and it's like they can just walk through this team of players who shouldn't really be on a pitch with them. And we should say it's not just Henderson. It's not just Henderson.
Some players have been struggling though. Like Firmino hasn't done very well out there, and Jordan Henderson's team are 8th in the league. Like they've got half the points that Ronaldo's team have got.
Well, he wants to leave as well, doesn't he? Firmino's talking about coming back. I think Fabinho as well is talking about wanting.
There's
to leave.
There's a lot of rumours about Benzema coming back as well.
Yeah, well they've not taken him. They've not taken him on their training camp, have they? His team. They've said he's not allowed to come to Dubai.
He hasn't been turning up.
Isn't that a terrible look though? Like if you make a big song and dance about having all of these great players come and play to your league to change perception, and then they all all do 5 months in going, fuck me, this isn't worth the money, I'm off. Like,
How bad must it be? Because they're on crazy, man.
Yeah.
I can't do anything.
6 months, not even 6
Mate.
months. Some of them joined in August. Some
Can
of them
their
it's been
wives
4
even
months.
drive out there?
Yes.
I mean, you don't need to, though, really. Just get a chauffeur.
Well, yeah. I don't have any sympathy for him personally. I don't have any sympathy for Henderson. I don't have any sympathy for any of them. I think you knew what you were doing. You were selling out. And what did you expect? Honestly, what did they expect? Did they think it was going to be a laugh? Did they think?
I don't think all of them are sellouts, though.
Who went there for sporting reasons then?
Are you
How
mad?
are they sellouts?
What do they want? Like, let's
If
be
you're at
real.
the end of your career, some of them are at the end of their career and they've been offered shitloads of money to go
I
there. That
would
makes you a
say
that's a
sellout.
sellout.
That's still a sellout.
How?
You're just
Why?
not selling anything
Take
worth
the money.
selling.
Because you're doing a thing that you wouldn't do ordinarily. You're only doing it for like ordinarily you would play football, but you'd want to play in one of Europe's bigger leagues. You would never go to a league where nobody's in the crowd and you're playing Sunday league.
If you're 34.
but then
Oh, look
how
at
bad
Sergio
People are going
selling out?
MLS. So
How-
MLS is a sellout when people are
Ruben
going
Neves.
MLS.
kind of, yeah,
Ruben
but not
Neves.
as bad.
How bad
man.
is selling out though? What I would say is when you look at Cristiano Ronaldo going over there, Ronaldo did sort of offer himself to like anyone that would have him before going there. Obviously, yeah, he weren't going to go and play for Scunthorpe, but he was, he said like Napoli, Chelsea weren't in the Champions League, he would have gone to us.
Messi could have gone there as well, and he didn't end up there.
He offered himself a high money though, and they were like, "We got the money, bro. We got
Dragusin,
more money."
Dragusin's on.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gave him the the Reedsdale at Leeds treatment of this is Saudi Arabia. Well, how much do you want? You know what I mean? We'll double it. But yeah, I think Ronaldo's like that one off though, because he's building something else over there. He's building a relationship that isn't just going to make him rich for football. Like he is at all of the fight events for a reason. He is their guy.
Oh, yeah.
He's there.
He's bought and paid for.
Does this tell us with the influx of players that went there and now everyone apparently wanting to leave and whatnot? Does this tell us that no matter what they're doing in other sports, in boxing and whatnot, the Saudis aren't going to be able to take over football?
Well, do you know what? I thought they might be, but FFP's proven me wrong. So I think my second hope was that because when I started getting really toxic and bitter about it, I thought, well, maybe if the Saudi league start offering big contracts to all of the Premier League players, it might kind of remove a lot of the top performers from the Premier League, and in a way, they still win anyway, and we start losing our bigger names. So therefore, they have to loosen FFP restrictions. That might still happen. That is still a possibility. Like if all of a sudden all of our best players go there and is it Mo Salah who's next?
Do you, sorry to interrupt you, but do you think that could be a factor now? Like obviously Mo Salah, that's 3 of his former teammates we've just spoken about who've gone and want to leave after a few months.
Yeah.
And as we spoke about earlier, footballers talk. Do you think there is a chance now that someone's either Henderson, Fabinho, Firmino say to Salah, mate, don't do it. Like, don't do it.
I think it's different for Salah because
Culturally.
because of his religion and because of how he would be accepted over there, and also I think he would be on a different look. We don't know what these deals really are, but I'm pretty sure that Salah's deal would be more comparable to a Ronaldo deal. Spurs are on the attack.
Break him.
It's a really good
Charlton.
attack. In behind.
Behind him.
Oh, and that's a good clearance from Wan-Bissaka. This is it's been a fucking end-to-end game, to be fair. Like,
At the end, yeah.
We knew this was going to be a good game, to be fair.
I still feel that Salah has got a couple of years at least in the Premier League where he's still absolutely smashing it. It
but
doesn't feel like it's at the end of his career where he's like, oh, I'll have an MLS move or I'll go to another league.
You know when
Or
we were-
Van
Oh,
Ven-
man.
No, we just.
I think it's
knew
crap.
this would
Looks like
happen.
cramp. It
I
looks
think
like
it's cram. I think
Yeah,
that's
it
cram.
does. Yeah, look, he's getting it stretched out. That's not a pulled hamstring, is it? If he's getting stretched out like that,
yeah.
they wouldn't touch it.
He's all right.
sure?
Don't worry, Craig.
Yeah, don't panic. Don't panic.
Can you just give him a hug or
I'm
something?
3 months we haven't had this guy.
Fuck.
God,
oh, Rashford's
can't
coming
be-
off.
Get him off with that hairstyle.
Have you seen all of the memes about his haircut with that girl in the crowd?
It looks like an
It's
auntie.
fucking brutal.
I have to say though about
Good
Henderson
finish.
and I think about all the other players that have gone to Saudi. Can you not understand it? Like, can you not
Absolutely.
understand like the level of money? Like Henderson double, tripled. Like I heard it was like 7 times his wages.
There's a rumour it was
no
700,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with no tax. You can
They
understand. You can completely understand why they've done it. But I find it very interesting, as we say, that all of these players are now they've been there, they've lived the experience, and now they want to come home. And again, I can understand why people would want to go. But if people want to come back home and they want to be back in European football, again, you kind of just have to go. They haven't enjoyed
Mate,
the process.
Let's
I'm
not forget,
not-
though, the
I
reason
don't respect
Henderson specifically got grief was because he made himself look a certain way by supporting the LGBT plus community, and then he gaslit them a bit in his statement by saying, well, I'm sorry if this makes you feel, if you feel that way about me moving over here, but,
Clever.
He didn't. He didn't carry the situation well. He could have been a bit better.
Apparently, that was a factor as well. They've said that apparently that's part of the factor is he didn't think he'd get this level of backlash. It's like, well, you're a hypocrite.
When he was getting booed by the England fans, I think that probably put the shit up with him.
Come on, that's not going to be the reason why he comes home. Though backlash, like he's going to be laughing
because he wants his wife to drive.
Yeah. Well, no, I
don't know anything about this.
It must just be the family perspective.
Yeah.
You know, he's away
She's a
from
talented
home.
Driver,
He wants to come back close to home, play a bit of football. There's only one team for him.
Do you know what it is? We've rejected it, apparently.
Newcastle.
And fuck for that. I wouldn't have that.
Do you not think
bastard near us?
Do you not think that some of these footballers, are going
Juventus,
over there?
by the way. I don't know if you've seen Juventus at
And
all.
Ajax as well.
Juve
and Ajax are looking at him.
That's mad. But some of these footballers, or most of these footballers, will go over there like mid-30s or whatever. Do you reckon they're now looking at the level and they're going, mate, I could go and do 3 more years in a top European league. I could come over at like 39, 40 and do a couple of seasons at this level.
100%. I think that's it. I think some of them will be going, fuck, it's not that I shouldn't have done this. I just shouldn't have done it now.
This week.
I should have done it.
Imagine being like Ruben Neves or whatever. How old's Ruben Neves?
27.
But Saudi want you now. Like Saudi want you while you still have juice in the game. Otherwise, like, let's not forget, and we're kind of getting onto him, Jesse Lingard went over there for a trial and did not get picked up. Now, that has got to be one of the most brutal things for a lad's career. And if we sort of rewind the clock a little bit, Jesse Lingard had a situation where he had 2 contracts on the table, one, I believe, from West Ham and potentially one from Newcastle, round about 100 grand a week contract, which was right off the back of that amazing half season he had for West Ham. He turns them down and takes a 200 grand a week option at Nottingham Forest, but it was a 1-year deal. They then don't keep him after he drifts out the team, and it just goes horrendously. Now he's uploading pictures like some sort of gym Instagrammer, and Paul Scholes is bantering him off in the comments saying, are you going to play football soon or just fuck around in the gym? That is not how you want to handle your career.
What were people's interpretation of that comment? Because I don't know Paul Scholes, like, you know, I haven't watched many interviews with him, whatever, to know what his sense of humour's like. I just know he bites toenails.
I can tell you now, mate, there ain't one. There ain't a sense of humour.
No, but that's it.
I agree with you. I agree.
Because I don't know if there is one so much, I'm like, was he having a proper dig at him there? Or was that banter?
I think he was, because Paul Scholes would have been around the Man United, you know, set up when Lingard was coming through, and Lingard would have been similar to what we said with Rashford, like an exciting young player.
Yeah.
They thought, this guy is going to be Man United for a long time. And I think their generation will be looking at someone like Lingard being like, how have you fucked this away? Especially because, bear in mind, Paul Scholes, Man United legend, he would have never earned 200 grand a week. He wouldn't have been on that kind of money. No. Like, in that generation, those contracts didn't exist, let alone at Nottingham Forest.
But he could have had a 4-year deal at Newcastle or West Ham, and he took the short money in the belief of, I'll deliver, then I'll get another contract which will be on a free because my contract will be up at Forest. He's apparently the Scholes thing I find interesting because, you know, Lingard hasn't replied to him, and it is pretty much a call out. In the aftermath of that, apparently Lingard has sacked his agents, and I think there's obviously a level of blame there of like, how have you let me go out in the cold to rot for this long? But ultimately, and I'd actually like to interview the guy to ask this to him, like, what the fuck has gone on here? Because you're obviously talented, and, you know, it's one thing not delivering to your maximum potential. It's another thing to be in a situation where no one wants to touch you. Like, you're being treated like you're a problematic person.
Do you know who I think he should have a look at? Ross Barkley.
And Andros Townsend was going to be the other one.
Great.
Because
show.
them two have done. You'd imagine, man, they've got to have dropped their wage demands. Barkley went from Chelsea to Luton.
Mate, Andros Townsend did a 3-month contract.
That's
like,
what I'm
he
saying.
was basically playing for free.
Backing their ability in a team that, you know, are struggling for survival in the Premier League, albeit being one of the better performers out of the promoted teams.
I don't think Lingard gets in that Luton team.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I don't know if he does, but I tell you what, Barkley, Townsend's popped up here and there, but Barkley consistently has been really good in that deeper role for Luton. And I think that maybe someone like a Jesse Lingard could have to not eat humble pie, but swallow a little bit of pride and go, okay, let me go and prove myself. There's no humble pie left
when no one's touched you for 6 months and you're Jesse. Like, Jesse Lingard, he must be at rock bottom mentally, feeling like, this is embarrassing now. Like, I was a top player for Manchester United, not the first name on the team sheet, but a successful player for them for a long time, and now no one even wants to touch you.
I do get that, but no one was touching Barkley. And Lingard has had more recent success than Barkley has. Barkley stagnated for seasons and seasons. Lingard was in that West Ham team playing well. Like,
he did look at the West Ham.
I still think that there would be the option there. There would be mate, I'm not being funny. Like at the moment, you might not want it, Brian, but Newcastle. Yeah, at the moment, if he took a short contract with Newcastle and really dropped his wage demands and thought, right, I'm going to back my ability here rather than trying to cash out for the biggest
5
possible.
months, yeah. I get
it could happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't be totally against it.
And I'll tell you one thing, money seems important in the moment, but when you are too old to perform in general and you look back on your career, you will wish you had done that. You had done something like that or had an agent.
Mate, he's not injured. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying.
His career's
ready to go.
Like, it's going down the drain before his very eyes. And, like, all of a sudden, like, all of this shit in the fucking, you know.
But that's
nothing.
part of it. That's if I was his agent, if he has a smart agent, they'll be saying to him, mate, go and play some football because once you finish playing, there ain't much out there for you. A, who wants to be coached by him? B, who the fuck wants to watch him on TV? Genuinely, like, do you think Sky are lining him up as a pundit?
No, I don't.
People are going
Although
nuts.
some of the pundits are horrendous. But
They are, but come on. Like this is the problem. Like, it's not just you got to fix your image. You got to go, mate, your playing days are running low and you got to do something quick. Because right now, in terms of your reputation, you're not getting touched for other jobs.
Why are you telling me this? Why are you telling me this? Why? Don't do that. Do not
He's
do
fucking
that.
cruel.
Do not
We're
do
in the
that.
final minutes and Josh has just tapped Craig on the shoulder as if he knew a goal was coming.
Well, mate, he saw Man United's top goal scorer, Scott McTominay, waiting for that header to hang in the air.
Horrible
I
person.
must admit, to leave Scott McTominay
a horrible man.
unmarked, can we just say, unmarked in the 6-yard box in the 95th minute is criminal defending. And to be fair, McTominay's form this season has been good at finishing. You'd have thought you'd have buried that. Man United fans must become mental at him.
They've been bad this half, so they've been poor.
Oh, they don't deserve
But what have they done again? Match where they haven't played well and they've managed to come out with some form of result.
Yeah.
Craig called it, by the way, didn't you?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
did call it.
It's not over. Stop saying this.
Can you do my
You
lottery?
fucking want it to be over, mate. The way this is
give credit
going.
to Craig. You called it, mate. Well done.
Thank you.
I'll have my lottery numbers done.
Is this a good point for Spurs? Like, honestly, with that many players missing,
I think in the
I
context,
don't think it's bad.
I just think in the context season, if you go away to any of the big teams and don't lose, I don't think it's ever a bad thing.
No,
Do you know what I
I-
mean? I don't think it's ever a bad thing. Not a lot of. How many of the big teams have gone there and won at Old Trafford this season?
Can I just ask a
Old
question?
Trafford.
We haven't
City.
beat
But
yet.
before we go on to the game, I've just got a couple of
City.
questions about the Lingard situation. One, was Paul Scholes out of order for saying that?
We don't know whether, like, sometimes things can be lost in translation over text. So maybe Scholesy's got a bit of banter about him and he's sat there with a smile on his face writing it. But the way it looks,
Let's assume it is.
the way it looks, yeah.
Are you
probably-
kicking a man while he's down?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Don't you want your mates to kind of like say, "Come on, mate, sort it out"
Public-
as well, though?
Publicly,
Do you know what? Next time Josh does anything wrong, I'm going to be
Yeah.
all over his foot.
Yeah, yeah.
What the fuck was that,
Sort it out, you
Josh?
twat.
shit video. What is that?
He says that.
Yeah.
No, because I felt like if I'm Lingard, it's like not only are you, like everyone's giving you a kicking, but a Man United legend giving you a kicking, it feels like because he can't not respect Paul Scholes. Paul Scholes is the man to Jesse Lingard.
Yeah, he would have, had his jaw dropped in training just looking at Scholes as he walked past. Now he's commenting on your Instagram, digging you right out. But I mean, at the same time, like it does say so. Like Scholes, like, how much time you got on your hands, mate? But yeah, it's not.
I think it says a bit about Lingard though. Like, I don't want to kick the guy when he's down, but it's like I know he must have respected Scholes, but did he? Because if he would, bear in mind they played in the same team before.
You know those old Man United guys though, the way they talk to each other was kind of different from modern football. Like these modern footballers, they're all sucking each other off in the comments. Whereas Keane and Scholes and them, it was very much business, wasn't it? They were like very matter of fact. It wasn't like pep talking each other's egos or whatever. I don't know, maybe I could be wrong. But the way Scholes is as a pundit and Keane is as a pundit, they don't come across as mincing their words.
Remember what Scholes did, though? When we're talking about having that inactivity out of football and whatever, Scholes retired and then came back and played in the Manchester Derby and was man of the
Mate,
match.
think about that. Like, the more I deep that is insane. That Scholes
That's
was
what
like,
I'm saying.
yeah, like, it's one thing to go off to Saudi. He's like, nah, I'm just going to come back to the Premier League and dictate a game.
He retired, didn't go off to a lower level, retired. Man United went through somewhat of an injury crisis. He had still been going to the training ground every now and again, comes back into the team and is man the match in a Manchester
been walking
Derby
the
FA
dog
Cup
for a
game.
year.
It's like...
All right, so in terms of where does Lingard end up? Do we think he gets a club, or do you think that's him?
Nah, I don't think. From my perspective, I don't think we see him again.
Anyone?
No. I reckon he goes down to the Championship and he takes a very low paid.
You think so?
Yeah.
Championship feels a bit beneath him. Like that's mad.
I think he's sacked off his agents with the intent purpose to just play football, and so I just think he'll end up at a club. I think
maybe Liga.
Is it beneath him if he could get Leicester or something? Who he knows within 6 years? I don't think they would. But if he did get to Leicester,
this is terrible.
I'm pretty sure he played for Leicester.
I hope God isn't
before,
listening to this. The poor bastard. All right. So generally, you don't think he's getting a Premier League job?
I don't think he's going to play in the Premier League. No, I don't. Because if Luton or
my guy, like, it's possible. It's possible.
Who's going to sign him? Who's going to sign him in the Premier League? Who?
Yeah, like a Luton, maybe.
Yeah.
Luton. I think he can get a Premier League club.
It's hard because those bottom. I don't want to be like disrespectful, but those lower level teams. Like a Lingard is such a risk at this point in the season. It's such a risk. It's in midfield. Like it's such a risk to play Lingard. I don't know when you look at the players that those teams have got already. Who do you take out for Lingard?
If he hadn't have gone to Forest and being edged out of the team, I would feel like there's more of a chance of it. But that went badly, so therefore it doesn't look good.
Can I say Lingard, right, when he's on form, is a brilliant player that can improve most teams. But I'm just saying, with the uncertainty around it right now, I feel like if I am a team that's right down there, I want a proven fight.
That's what I'm saying.
In that relegation battle. I don't know if I want someone who, if he hits his form, can complement things really well.
Okay, let's recap the game quickly, lads. Full time, 2-2, as Craig suggested. Are you happy with that point?
I'm not happy with it, but I'll take it. At the end of the day, I'll take it. I'm not happy. We had the chance to go into the top 4 and leapfrog Arsenal. Look, now we're just on the same points as them, but they got a game in hand and better goal difference. We needed to win that to really get in there and make a statement. And Man United aren't that good. I mean, look at them today. It was all counter-attacking football.
-5 goal difference after.
It's horrible.
They're the only team in the top half of the table with a negative goal difference.
This is what I mean.
I think that sums them up really. Like they are getting points, but they're negative in every way other than that.
I have to say, the fact that they're 8 points off Spurs in 5th tells you that a few bad results, Man United could slip down the table bloody quickly.
Yeah, they could, but also I think there is talent on the pitch. I think that's the one thing you have to say is there is actually talent on the pitch. That's the best performance Højlund's given them in a long time. He was decent today. It's a really nicely taken goal. I thought he provided a focal point at times. I thought he gave the defenders a bit of trouble. Rashford looked up for it for about 25 minutes, which is 25 more minutes than he showed for the rest of this season. Maino in midfield, by the way, he's a player. Like, he's actually a player. If you're Ratcliffe in the stands, you're going, right, okay, there is actually stuff someone could work with. It's just like we've said for the whole show. It's not this guy.
Yeah,
Evans got exposed, and I think both sets of centre.
So he should, though. So he should get exposed. What are we talking about? Evans got exposed, so he fucking should.
Yeah.
36-year-old Johnny Evans playing in a game like this, he should get exposed every week.
Yeah.
Like, where was Varane today?
Yeah.
I know he played, but what I'm saying is they've conceded 2 goals. We're not saying that Varane's had a masterclass performance.
Yeah.
This is if I'm Ratcliffe in the stadium, I'm going, the one thing you've got to stop fucking doing is giving 300 grand a week contracts to these guys who don't want to be there. We know Varane doesn't want to be there. Casemiro's in no rush to get back on the pitch. If there's a future with Man United, it's the young players like Maino, and they need to get someone in there who's actually, and like Højlund, there's something there. I've watched him at the Emirates this season, Højlund. He's a bastard for defenders to defend against. He's a pain in the arse. He's big, he's quick, he's difficult. I'm not saying he's good enough for their level. But that's something there.
That's the thing that blows my mind when Man United fans sort of back Ten Hag. Is like, I don't think they're appreciating the amount of money spent and the amount of quality that he inherited. That's on top of that. Like and you're so right, there is so much quality in the squad, but no clue on how to use it. And I think having years of just, bad managers has sort of blinded Man United fans to the actual problem, which is you keep picking bad managers. It's not Man United's an impossible club to manage, yada, yada, yada. Like, they're just a fucking football club. Yes, it's a big club. Yes, there's a bit more pressure. I'm not denying that. But there is no excuse for being so clueless as to how to get the best.
Not just that, the attitude of how you manage them. Like, you need to be positive attacking. That just has to be it. After what we saw, what went down with Jose Mourinho and all the other managers, you have to, at the very bare minimum, be playing attacking football, not counter-attacking football. And the fact that he's playing this now is just stupid.
The fact that they gave Spurs the freedom of the pitch blows my mind.
That's what I was going to say. The stats of this, like, Spurs had 64% possession. Bear in mind, we've been talking about their midfield. There isn't a midfielder on the pitch for Spurs who could pass a fucking football. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm joking, of course. Like, Benteke is a good player, but still, 64% 54% possession, 16 shots to 9, 1.35 XG for Man United's 0.84.
Let's be real. If Son plays today, Spurs win.
Spurs win. And if Rashford doesn't play, they also win. Like, the thing is, when Ten Hag came in, I watched his Ajax team, and I've said this before, I watched him in the Champions League. The football they played was gorgeous. Like, strikers moving around, midfielders scoring goals. It was incredible. Like, if you're going to play like that, why not get Conte? Do you know what I mean? If that's what
Get
you're
someone
going
who
to
does
do,
it good.
get someone who does it. Keep Mourinho.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, what are you doing?
They're just relying on individual brilliance. So, like, countless times this season, you see a Garnacho wonder goal, or or a Bruno Fernandes strike against Burnley. Like, it ain't that they've ground a team down and won the game with, they haven't deserved it. They've just snatched it.
Well, even when you say
I'm
about
used to
individual
that.
brilliance, how often does Højlund do that? You don't do that all that often.
That
Do you know
was
what I mean?
a
So
strike, wasn't
it's not. I'm not saying it's fluky. It was quality, but what I'm saying is it's not consistent, is
Exactly.
it? You can't go, oh well, that might happen next week. It's like, well, he doesn't really score that often. So,
But I tell you what, that goal, the Højlund goal, that if I was to try and describe a Man United goal, it's kind of that. It's like, long pass from Fernandes over the top.
Bit of confusion in the box.
Bit of
It drops to
confusion
someone.
and it drops
Bang.
them. Yeah, exactly. That's Ten Hag football.
Yeah.
How bad is that?
It's not like there isn't a system that is repeatable. We're not saying anything like that, but Ten Hag has so much quality that he's just fumbling his way through and keep getting enough points.
So when did they pull the trigger on this guy? Like, seriously, at this point, when did they pull the trigger on him? You think they just wait to the end of the
I
season?
think they wait till the end of the season and go, look, it's obviously not good enough long term. And the thing I'll give Man United fans credit for, and the club actually, is like they've been... I mean, the club, I think that the owners who currently still own the club kind of are not, good at owning a football club, that's clear. But the fans have given him as much support as possible. Like, this has been dreadful for months, and they've still backed him. It's to a point where I'm wondering what the fuck they're watching. Because, and I'm, as an outsider, going, I'm glad you're fucking backing him. He's bloody useless.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? But they're supporting him.
I just think it's a mixture of the options not being out there and the fact that the owners knowing that their responsibilities are going to be lessened. If I'm renting a house, I'm not going to cut the grass, in the back garden the day before I'm moving out of that house. Like, I just think he's in that sort of lull period in between ownerships and responsibilities changing at boardroom level, and that's why he's still in the job. So I think they'll leave it until it's like mathematically impossible for them to get any sort of...
But Radcliffe's there now. Like, he's the one making the football decisions. Like, why are they not doing that immediately? Like, why would they slow it down? If he wants to make a systemic change of the football club, you kind of want to start that as soon as possible.
Is he strong enough to do that? I don't know. You know a bit more of his time at Nice. Is he strong enough to do that, to come in straight away? Because doing it, regardless of whether we banter about the pressure and whatnot, doing it at Nice and doing it at Man United are two different things.
Do you know the thing, though, is like when we talk about getting a new manager, we're like, oh, well, who is there? Like, a couple of years ago, Man United would have looked down on, and understandably so, I'm not having a go at the fan base for this, but Big Ange wouldn't have been someone who they've thought of as viable. Eddie Howe, Unai Emery, like all the managers
They didn't really want Poch.
Yeah, who potentially could be better than Ten Hag. And I think it's about reevaluating where they are as a club and going, here's where we are, and here's the kind of manager we need for where we are. Not this dream of being a title-winning side. Obviously, like, what they're looking for is that guy who gets them back challenging for a title, and I think the idea that Ten Hag was that is understandable, but he's clearly not. Anyway, we'll leave that there. Before we go, we just have to give a bit of support for our guy Joey Knight, who next weekend in 7 days' time is fighting on Misfits 12, I believe, in Leeds. So don't forget, you can go there, be a part of the event, get tickets. Joey, I think, is the first fight on the card. He starts his journey for the Misfits lightweight title, and we're all going to be supporting him. He's even got a little kickoff logo on the shorts we've seen, and we're looking forward to it.
Let's go.
Let's go, champ.
Come on,
Let's
son.
go, champ.
Come on, man. And you can check that out next Saturday on Misfits on DAZN. We'll see you there. Thanks for everyone who watched, and we'll catch you later. Cheers.